www.ntv.co.ug/live. My name is Shida Nduchide once again. This is a grand citizen debate where we take stock of the first 100 days of the national resistance movement. If it was an educational school term, this would be perhaps the first term, 3 months, and that's it. So this is a report card. We expect that you'll be very lively, and of course you, our home audience, have been roped in this debate. You can follow this conversation online. Our hashtag is #NRMAudit16. That is on Twitter and Facebook. And of course, some very few ground rules before we can start. This is a very emotive debate, as you can imagine. So if you agree with whatever the panelists will be saying, we expect that the best thing you can do is at least stamp your feet. No booing, no clapping, or if you clap, let it be within 5 seconds, please. And to you, of course, our home audience, you have the luxury of shouting, even kick your screen if you really, really feel agitated, but please, we advise against that. And of course, the other issue is phones. Let's remain civil. Keep your phones in silence because we want to have as much time and as much content as we can. And of course, this, like I said, is a live debate. We will restrict our movements until we have the breaks of, say, 2 to 5 minutes. So we trust that you're going to comply with that. And of course, again, the applause, restrict your excitement. We appreciate that we belong to different political alignments, but let's respect one another. We're going to remain civil. So I will invite my colleague Charles Mwangusha to take us through what to expect as we start. Welcome.
Thank you, Sheila. It's a debate, so we want to spare as much time as possible to do the debate, to do just that. Let me just say, I recognize some faces in the audience. I'll be introducing our panel. We have, I just seen the former Katikiro of Buganda, Joseph Mulwanya Mulisemogere, join us. You're most welcome, sir. I've just seen, I saw earlier, the Honorable Salam Musumba Proskovia. You're most welcome. The Honorable Alice Ashanut Alaso. You're most welcome. Forgive me, I'll jump a little bit. I'll be acclimatized with some of the names, so if I miss you, but I'll be recognizing. We also have the President of the Forum for Democratic Change, General Mugisha Muntu, is with us in the audience. The Lord Mayor of Kampala, Arias Lukwago, is with us in the audience. The President General of the Democratic Party, the Honorable Norbert Mao, commonly known as Chairman Mao, is with us in the audience. We have the Deputy Secretary General of the National Resistance Movement, NRM spokesperson, Ofono Opondo. You're most welcome, sir. Is OO. That's what they call him. The Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, Butambala Member of Parliament. You're most welcome, sir. The Honorable Anne Adeke Ebaju, Youth MP. You're most welcome. She's sitting next to a team from the DGF, the Democratic Governance Facility, who help NGO Forum and the Uganda Governance Monitoring Platform to be able to deliver some of these things. So we have Mr. Soren Rasmussen. He is a component manager at DGF. You're most welcome, sir. Ms. Josephine Namusisi, DGF Deputy Component Manager. You're most welcome. And Barbara Cham. We have the NGO Forum is a collection of different civil society organizations. So we have leaders from different civil society organizations. I just forgotten to introduce Mr. Richard Sewakirianga. He's the Executive Director of the NGO Forum. You're most welcome, sir. I see Arthur is preparing because he'll be doing a little bit more. Arthur Larocque is the Country Director of Action Aid International for Uganda. He will be speaking to us later, so we'll introduce some of those people as we move along. This is how we're going to run. Because we have an audience in this hall at the Golf Course Hotel, and we have an audience on TV, we need to be able to provide for the interest of the different audiences. We shouldn't try to be selfish because we are here. Let's also mind about the other audiences that we have. So let's keep our contributions brief and to the point. Let's remain civil as we make our contributions, And next, we need to start with the program that's brought us here to save as much time as possible. We're going to invite Mr. Richard Sewa Kirianga, Executive Director of the Uganda National NGO Forum, to give us brief opening remarks. And after that, we'll have a presentation of the report that is the basis of this morning's debate. You're most welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and all our viewers across the country. We first will say all protocol observed so that we save time for TV. Welcome to the Grand Citizens Debate. The theme for this debate is assessing President Museveni's first 100 days in the 5th term of the NRM government. As you all know, the NRM government was voted into power this year, and on the 12th of May 2016, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni was sworn in as the President of Uganda for the 5th elective term. On 23rd June, His Excellency the President had his first meeting with his new cabinet, and he did issue a set of strategic guidelines for this term, dubbed Hakuna Mchezo, literally meaning that this term is a no-nonsense term. Maybe we should add no mediocrity. Now, this statement not only suggests a renewal in leadership, but it also stipulates a promise for effective service delivery and governance. So it's against this backdrop that the Uganda Governance Monitoring Platform conducted the assessment of the first 100 days of President Yoweri Museveni's 5th elective term. And this assessment was conducted as part of our routine work under the Uganda Governance Monitoring Platform, which is a platform that brings together several civil society organizations that are focusing and working on issues of governance monitoring. And we looked at a number of things. One was we interrogated the extent to which the promises, the directives, and the guidelines issued by the President align with the national development priorities as articulated in the National Development Plan and the Vision 2040. We checked on the feasibility of these promises, took stock of some of the key actions that have been taken, therefore we also looked at a number of other issues, analyzing how these things play out. So ladies and gentlemen, this morning we are spending time here to do what we do as part of the Governance Monitoring Platform and the Citizen Manifesto Partners, which is to make sure that we put together citizen leader-citizen interactions where we can discuss how to improve this country, what kinds of reforms should we take, what kinds of policy positions are working for us, and all that. And as you will know, this is at the hallmark of a mature democracy, that indeed citizens and their leaders should always routinely sit together and be able to express themselves over the issues that they feel they need to be improved or anything of that nature. So ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you very much to this debate. We have tried as much as possible to bring the different political parties that are represented in Parliament and in other spaces, and a few opinion leaders on governance so that they can give us their perspective. So we hope that you'll all be able to learn something, to be able to raise some key questions, but also to continue to challenge ourselves, to ask ourselves, how can we make our country better? 100 days are very significant because usually that's where you actually see if the perspective, the priorities are being focused on as the leader or the president who is in power wants them to be. So we hope that through this debate we shall be able to zero down onto that question. Having sending in questions, so we want to thank them very much for also tuning in and being part of this. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to wish you all a very productive morning, and thank you very much for coming.
A round of applause for Mr. Richard Sewatlianga, the NGO Forum Executive Director.
Thank you very much, Richard. I think we are getting on course. And I just realized that I haven't been to church lately, so I didn't introduce the Bishop, Dr. Zach Niringie. You're most welcome. I also saw the Honorable Francis Mujute join us along the way. That's why we are here. So that we can have as many people joining us as possible. And if you're watching us on any of the channels that we talked about, feel free to share your views. Some comments are coming and flashing here on the screen of the comments that people are making on this first 100 days. Today is the 16th day of September 2016. So if you're doing your mathematics, actually it is not 100 days, it is 123 days, I think. About 123 days. But the report restricts itself to the first 100 days. Sheila is going to invite, I don't know if Arthur is ready, but we're just going to request that as you make your presentation, sir, make sure that you keep it within limits, give us enough to stimulate our appetite so that we can engage in an Mr. Arthur Larocque is the country director of Action Aid, but he works very closely with the UGMT and will present the findings of the UGMT on the first.
Thank you very much, Charles and Sheila. Good morning, countrymen and supporters of Uganda. This presentation that I'm going through has been developed by the Uganda Governance Monitoring Platform, which I will be saying something short about later. Can someone just ensure that the slide is okay, because we apologize that the printed reports will come a bit late. So we want as much as possible people to actually look at what is there, so that I'm not just speaking from script that people don't fully appreciate. Okay, let me just start with some intros. The Kisanja Kuna Mchezo, I think people who speak Swahili who are conversant with this will know that this is a commitment that no playing games, okay? In some respects, it's perhaps an acknowledgement that games have been played for a while, and that this term, there is no such jokes. I think that's my interpretation. Because when you hear the president acknowledging the problems of Uganda quite courageously, it's something we need to applaud. But to declare that I don't expect any of my people to be playing games is also an admission that there is much more that we can do. Now, in terms of the outline of presentation, we will talk about why should we talk about 100 days? What's magic about 100? Where's the history? Often in this part of the world, we pick many ideas from elsewhere and sometimes abuse them or misuse them. So I'll just say something about that, where it's coming from, because it's not just our idea. We'll talk a little bit about the methodology. This is important. I won't take too much time, Charles, but just to emphasize that this was a rigorous assessment, so people who will be interested in the substance, often researchers are accused of, even if you report that indeed somebody has died and it is true, they will say, but how? Even when the evidence is there. So methodology is important, and we'll say something about that. And then the report card itself, which we touch on the economy, service delivery, environment, defense and security, and then governance, good governance and corruption. Okay. So we all know that the presidential and parliamentary elections took place on the 18th. That's not something that, just to remind you, and that the current president was declared winner 2 days later by the Electoral Commission. We also know that the outcome of the election was widely criticized by some foreign observers as well as local observers, and that some protagonists and main contestants rejected the outcome of the election. We know that the Honorable Amama Mbabazi, people keep asking, where are you, went to court. We all know the outcome of the court, and we also know that the Forum for Democratic Change has claimed that they actually won the election and they have rejected the outcome of the election. Okay, so that really is important for us to appreciate, you know, the context within which to look at 100 days. Now, the build-up to the 100, well, maybe just I say something about that UGMP, because people will say, who are these? Who are these NGOs? Why are you doing assessment? We were established in 2004. It has 17 Ugandan NGOs, and working all over the country, and also with some global connections. So there are some NGOs there as well. We are behind the Citizens Manifesto and many other governance innovations in this country. So that's really about the organization and the platform that is behind this assessment. Let's move faster. I've finished that. So there was a build-up to the swearing in on May 12th. And this is important. These images are important because the first 100 days after, you know, swearing in is a response to some of these things we saw as a build-up. That's why we are just showing some of those images. Please move on. That was the Kasangati siege. We've seen running battles between Ugandans and the police next. We've seen prayers. Some people had never seen praying, but you can see them there. That it's really about our motto, for God and my country, so there's nothing unusual about that. More about running battles that you can see there. Then that's a significant slide, because I haven't in my little life in Uganda seen two presidents declare and swear in. One more formally, another one online. But so we know that people talk about people's president and electoral commission president or whatever president, but that image is significant for whatever worth it is. It tells us, it gives us a sense that someone believes he's a president, although he's not in State House. And I stay somewhere in Buwate, and that road between Chira and Kasangati, taxi people have named it State House, you know. So there is an image that people have about who won the election. So that is significant. I've never seen it before, okay? Now, the first 100 days, it doesn't really matter. Some people have difficulties accepting the outcome of the election. We are responding in many different ways. But the one thing that cannot stop, you cannot stop the clock and say you are saving time. The one thing that keeps ticking is time. So we started counting the assessment 10 days after swearing in. That's what the timeline we started to use. And we stopped the assessment on the 12th of August. And so anything that happened after that is not something that we covered. Okay? Why 100 days? I mentioned this earlier. Next. 100 days, the tradition really is from the US, quite frankly. And the circumstances under which the late President Roosevelt, you know, came up with this idea that, you know, in 100 days, this is fundamental change that I'm going to create in America, was defined by certain circumstances in the US at that time. So what we've done in the full report, like you will see, we've drawn some parallels. And there are some striking similarities between the circumstances in the US then and circumstances in Uganda today. And I think that lays credence even to the head of state when he said, Hakuna mchezo. I think he's referring to some of these circumstances. We continue. Now, President Roosevelt, and this is the last slide about 100 days conceptually, this is what he promised. Just like we've had Donald Trump recently said, well, first 100 days I will build the wall to put a wedge between Mexico and the US. They make certain commitments because of the circumstances they find the country in. So we tried to do an analysis and a parallel for the head of state of Uganda and said, what exactly does Hakuna mchezo really mean beyond the literal translation that Richard already talked about? Is it about changing priorities, you know, Because the thing is that Roosevelt in 1933 was ascending into the presidency for the first time. But the president we have now is, I think, 30 years. So it's not new. For Roosevelt it was new, but for Museveni it is not necessarily new. So what exactly is the Hakuna Mchezo? So is it boldness of ideas or newness of ideas? So we try to apply our thought to what exactly this meant conceptually. Okay, next is what the report that you will see is about. I think we need to make a distinction that we have followed the president as a person. We are aware that the president does not deliver everything, although he does quite a bit. He's not responsible for everything. There is a government that functions and the like. We are aware about that. And this is not an assessment of the government. This needs to be clear. So we are not assessing Ministry of Education or Ministry of Health or Ministry of Agriculture. We have been able to track and just narrow down our methodology to the key actions and commitments that the president has been talking about. So if you want to have any strong criticism, be aware about this methodological reality that we are very open to put out there. There are limitations to this essentially. Okay? So that's the methodology we deployed, daily tracking of what the president was saying, the people he was meeting, parliamentary literature, including some of the order papers that reflect the priorities that were in the NRM manifesto. So we did analysis of those. We did extensive analysis. Quite honestly, you like it or not, the media is a significant player in our country. So they follow up important leaders. They follow up so many other things. And so it's a major source of information. Of course, you need to verify a lot that appears in the media, especially social media, for they can tell you there is an accident in Masaka Road when it's in Nigeria. So we need to qualify some of the things we see in the media. We did do that. Next, somebody is slow. Our findings, okay? Under the economy, we looked at energy, infrastructure, agriculture, and several other sectors. And let me then quickly run to, because what you see in the energy sector, the graph up there, you will see that we were really sorry, but we were following the president, what he was doing, what pronouncements, who he was meeting. So the graph up there indicates some of the significant activities the president was involved in and the commitments he made, some of the directives he made. And really, our observation and assessment of the, the discussion on energy, which is at the pillar of the NRM manifesto, boosting economic infrastructure, our assessment there is that it appears that the head of state believes that energy costs are related to supply and demand factors. And yet, at the current capacity, we have quite a bit of power, and the issue in our analysis might be connected to costs. So when the president says, I will do more dams, I will do more this, is that the right thing to do? Or actually Ugandans cannot afford even the existing power, okay? So that's an important observation that we did make. We made some important directives on investment. If we go to the next page, again, we tracked, we tracked and were able to establish that the president in 21 days, in 54 days, on 30th day, on the 76th day, we just tracked everything he was doing with regards to investments. And we found that while the president had a fairly busy schedule, meeting all sorts of investors, promoting Uganda, and which is a good thing, there are no actions recorded that relate to removing the constraints on investment. Many organizations have done, assessments. If you actually ask, do foreign investors need all the kind of, incentives that we provide? Many of them say actually no. The most important reason investors come to a country is completely disconnected, unless you have quack people who are coming to take advantage of your tax laws and then just leave after the holidays have been granted. But we felt that all these conversations were not really dealing with the real constraints of investment. And so that is our conclusion about the investment discussion. So we move on to agriculture. Those of you who have gone through our education system, we have been singing agriculture is the backbone of our economy, despite facts and evidence that agricultural productivity is declining and its contribution to our GDP is even declining, not so much because it's less important, but because we are investing quite a bit in services and the like. We still believe that, 69% of Ugandans are still stuck, in that sector. So if we didn't do something in that sector, you will not unlock the potential for Ugandans to come and join other sectors. We also are aware that poverty levels at the moment, living below the poverty line, the statistics from Uganda Bureau of Statistics says we are at 19.7%. But the really interesting statistic is about vulnerability. Vulnerability is a situation where any exposure to shock will push you back to below the poverty line. And 43% of Ugandans, according to government statistics, are actually vulnerable. So if you add vulnerability and poverty, we are talking 62. Ugandans, either poor, 62% of our population, either poor or vulnerable. That's significant. And so what has the president been saying about agriculture? So we can move to the next slide and see some of the pronouncements in the last 100 days. So we track on day 6, he talked about operational wealth creation. Many of you and our partners who are all over the country will connect with this idea of wealth creation and what does it really mean in practice. But so when you get the detailed report, because of lack of time, you will see exactly some of the pronouncements and on which days the president made those pronouncements. We did not find, unfortunately, any evidence of new ways of doing business given the last 2 decades of sloganeering around agriculture. Many organizations have done fantastic analysis of what we need to do in the agricultural sector, but we don't think it's anything new. Continuing with operational wealth creation or even reforming. You can reform a wrong thing. I don't think it will help. We don't think operational wealth creation is the way to improve agriculture. So that's a bit of a misnomer. So that's the verdict on agriculture. On industry, those are some of the pronouncements. The president was very categorical when he met his ministers. He issued 23 directives, and these are the directives that we used in large part. On industry, those are some of the things he said. Now, with regards to the first 100 days on industry, the available record, we did not find any new or big ideas that would demonstrate a new approach to doing business in industrialization. The idea of industrialization parks features more regularly in policy discussions since the directives, but really the substance. It's not new that we've been talking about industrial parks, whether Namamve, whatever. It's been there for a while. So we really didn't find anything convincingly new in the first 100 days about industry either. Okay? Directives on infrastructure. Again, this has been a priority for the NRM government, I think for the last perhaps 6-7 years, since they got the advice that you cannot have a poverty eradication action plan or a national development plan that prioritizes everything. Identify some important sectors, invest in them, and then unlock potential elsewhere. So I think the choice made by the NRM was on infrastructure. And for the last few years, or those of you who follow the budget process will know that infrastructure has been taking considerable amounts of money. So we do follow on day 44, day 78, what the president engaged with. This is interesting because, anybody who wants to prove can go and actually figure out on those days the kinds of meetings that the president was having. We did not find any evidence of new ways of doing business with regards to infrastructure projects, perhaps because this has been the thing anyway. So I'm not very surprised with that finding. We know that on the 22nd of February, the World Bank took a decision to suspend, major funding for Uganda, including infrastructure. Those of you who read New Vision will know that yesterday, yesterday actually, the front page was relaying information from the World Bank that it had suspended its grants. The company, China Railways company, that has been working on Fort Poto Kamwenge Road, and is also working on the Fairway, I think, road here, was highly criticized for, blatant human rights violations. The World Bank itself did investigations. that concluded that the whistleblower by a small little NGO in Chivale actually had a lot of valid facts about rape, you know, so that's why that grant was suspended. We actually support it, quite honestly. You cannot have development or infrastructure at the expense of people. That I think doesn't make a lot of sense. So that is the situation. On land, besides the debate sparked by the controversial, you know, discussion in Chankwanzi of compulsory land acquisition. Again, this is not new, by the way, because the president has talked about this before. We didn't find anything very new in what the president was saying in the last 100 days. Okay? That's about environment. Because of time constraints, we go to the next slide. Again, nothing noticeably different, and yet the crisis of environment is significant. In our country. So let me quickly move to service delivery and then make some. So that's on education. There are some we've heard from the Minister of Education, but from the President, it's the focus on infrastructure, you know, the hardware, whether in education and health, the focus on hardware, health centers, schools, whatever, rather than the software that are necessary, you know, welfare of teachers, quality of education and the like, really is not a priority, and the last 100 days has just been a continuation of that. Health is the same thing, so we can continue to the next. Directives on defense and security, this is an important pillar that the President has historically worked on. And so the preoccupation with security, which is the primary source of power, is certainly something that will continue, has been very dominant in the last 100 days, but also will likely continue in the future. Details of these are there. Now, directives on governance is interesting because we struggled to find out what exactly. The President actually, in his state of says Uganda is a country that has done significant reform. He doesn't think Uganda's problem is the governance one. Perhaps it's infrastructure, it's other things. And so it's not surprising that there was little information about commitments on governance. Of course, the story of corruption is something that we've had over and over again. Again, it's not very, very new. Okay, let's move to the conclusions, overall conclusions. The President has been busy. We conclude that really priorities haven't changed currently. Public service delivery remains a key talking point, and it's likely to remain as we move to the next few years. The President's, you know, discussion, even the idea of Hakuna Mchezo reflects, you know, an elevated sense of urgency. Something needs to be done, but I think Ugandans need to help the head of state to really put that urgency in reality, because I think maybe as many. Now, with regards to the implementation gaps, we really no significant, you know, reform of civil service has taken, reform of governance has taken. So when there is a problem, put in a new law, Parliament pass something. If there is a problem, create an authority. I don't think that's the way we should be responding to challenges that we face, but that is certainly the continuation of the way things have been done. So Hakuna Mchezo needs to be debated a bit more. Then we also conclude that the real elephant in the room is governance. There's a lot of talk at the moment that Uganda needs a new consensus to move forward. Everybody should come on board and whatever. And we believe that this is essential. If the President had talked about some of these things in his first 100 days, perhaps we would have had hope. But we still believe that this remains the elephant in the room, okay? So as I move towards the end, we just want to emphasize the fact that this assessment is not, we are not abusing anybody. We believe as a nation, the President has made important declarations. The NRA manifesto has been shared by several people. It's not so much the outcome of this assessment that is important, but what is it we are going to do differently as people, but also as leaders, that will help Uganda move forward. Like the saying goes, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first steps. So these first baby steps are not very satisfactory, according to our assessment, but it doesn't mean we will remain on those baby steps. It is incumbent on us to think about actions that are necessary for us to, you know, move our country in the direction that we desire. Thank you very, very much for your audience, and I'm sure the debate can now begin.
Thank you very much. In the words of Justice Ogola, the debate is the thing, and we're just about to kick off right now. But I'll tell you a very short story. When I was in my O-level, I had the opportunity, the unfortunate opportunity of becoming the first from behind in class. And so I didn't understand how I was going to take my report to my father, a very strict disciplinarian. So I thought in my wisdom, I can say I left the report at school, and so I would go back and pick it and maybe give it to him the next term. But of course, he was more wiser than I was, and he said, let's go to school together. When the term started, and of course, I had the report with me. The results were not very good, very implicating results, and it was time to face the music. I was the last in class. So Mr. O.O. and Honorable Richard Todong, I don't know if this report is as implicating as mine was, but I guess it's time now to face the music from this report. Thank you very much. Charles, if you could pick on from there, please.
Thank you. I think it's beautiful to be feeding off that experience from Sheila. And we will start by inviting our panelists to join us here so that we can start the debate. And may I remind you that we are running live on NTV. We are also live streaming, and we have different social media accounts on which we are running. It's, the hashtag is NRM Audit 16. So tweet, WhatsApp, Instagram, and we will continue the debate. May we have the following people move to the podium and join us for the discussion. We have arranged 9 chairs, so there are the 3 in the middle, 3 on the other side, and 3 on this side. Our invitation will follow that. I need Sheila to be near so that we can have all of you come over here. The Honorable Anne Adeke Ebaju, representing the biggest demographic in this country, who have the most interest in this Kisanja Hakuna Mchezo. You're most welcome. The middle one. Yes, most middle one. The people who do the implementation. There's 100 days of President Yoweri Museveni and his NRM government. There is also 100 days for other governments that run under. So may I have Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago be the next person to join us to account for his first 100 days in Kampala Capital City Authority. Most welcome, sir. Next to Anne. Yes. Sheila, can you invite the third person?
All right, we will now have Chairman Norbert Mao, the Democratic Party President. I request that you take the seat on my immediate left. You'll be joined by the FDC Presidential President. Yes, Major General Mugisha Muntu. Please, if you can come forward.
Need we remind you that Chairman Norbert Mao was a key figure in an outfit that was called Going Forward.
He'll be telling us where his candidate is.
We will look at that manifesto as well.
All right, we will also have retired Bishop Zach Nirinjie, who was also very instrumental in
the TDA.
The Democratic Alliance. I hope he can also tell us where the TDA is.
Yeah?
In its 100 days.
Can we have people joining us next to me here?
Sure.
Let's have the Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi. Mr. Ofono Opondo. And we're asking Arthur Larok to come back and join us here for the moment. Okay. We have one empty chair, and we'd like to fill it now. Sheila may invite the person who's going to give us the accountability for the party that he has in government.
Okay. The NRM Deputy Secretary General, Honorable Richard Todong, please come forward.
He'll take the seat next to Anne Adeke Ebaju.
All right, the debate is the theme once again, and to you, our home audience, I hope I'm on the right camera. Our home audience, you are absolutely welcome. In case you just joined us, you're watching the Grand Citizens Debate, organized by the
Uganda Governance Monitoring Platform, hosted by the NGO Forum.
Exactly. Now you can follow this hashtag NRM Audit 16, and we'll definitely be coming to you. And of course, our audience, we're going to take it this way. We'll take 3 answers from one panel, take another 2 from randomly, and then we'll come to you. So prepare your questions. If you have any what you think you differ from what they're saying, please note that down, and we'll come to you with the microphone. All right, let's get started now. Like I alluded to my report, my academic report, if I can use the words of Arthur LaRocque, he says, we did not find new evidence that there was going to be anything different in these first 100 days. I'll start with a panel that has Honorable Richard Todong, Honorable Anne, and of course the Lord Mayor. I'll start with you, Honorable Richard Todong. How do you receive this report, first and foremost? Are you comfortable that the results of this report reflect what many Ugandans think could be characteristic of these first 100 days?
Thank you, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I need to start by thanking the organizers for inviting us here. And I need to thank the audience. I see a wide spectrum of ladies and gentlemen who are anxiously waiting to hear from the panelists. Of course, I need to say with the deepest sincerity that we shall have, that as a government and as a party in leadership, we need to be as honest and as genuine and as concerned as you, the citizens, are. And we shall give you the answers in a very honest and very transparent way. 2, I need also to say, I've just seen this report now. I've not had the time and the opportunity to go through the findings before. And as the presenter was going through, in summary, he seems to say everything we have promised is the same, which is okay and which is right. You have elected the same government for the last 5 terms, the same president for the next 5 terms. What more different do you expect? So we are the same. The only difference is that our commitment now that we have put ourselves in to do things a little different from what we have been doing before. The last 100 days are different from the last 500 days and are different from the last 1,000 days. How and why? 1, the president started by giving guidelines, as the presenter rightly said, on the do's and don'ts on the sectors and the ministries and everything. And we expect that all these ministries and sectors would follow those guidelines to make us do things a little differently. 2, there are performance guidelines we've given to every ministry. And we expect these ministries to follow. 3, when you follow all these sectors from how he was listing them up to the last, the commitments, the promises, the audits we've been doing as a party and as a government, we know that the picture that is being portrayed by some of our friends is not as exactly as it is.
What is the actual
In social research, there is a word called epistemology. Epistemology is the knowledge a researcher has before going out to the field to do research. And when finally you're coming up with your finding, you need to delink your personal feelings from the facts. But in this research, I find personal feelings are mixed with the facts on the ground.
If I can let you go.
If I may continue, Sheila, I want to just give 2 areas. But of course, that one we can debate. It's a long theory. To compare Uganda with America of 1933, I think it's with the Roosevelt period and all that. I think it's better to compare Uganda with what Thomas Jefferson did in America in 1826. Because by 1826, America was 50 years old, like Uganda now, 54 years. And by that time, we know what America was, and by now we know what Uganda is. And to govern is a going concern. It's not a one-off. We are not promising Ugandans that we are going to do everything under the sun to make you be like America in one day. No!
Okay.
That is not what we have promised.
Thank you. Can I cut in there, the Honorable Todwong? You don't seem to be speaking in sync with your party chairman and the president of this country. The president seems to be anxious to do things differently, to move the country forward. And you're saying, what do you expect? You elected the same government for the last 5 terms. We're doing things the same. And you're saying, don't compare Uganda.
You know, if you are listening to me well,
Yes.
if you follow the themes of these manifestos, it were the manifestos that we are selling that were being elected. And every manifesto, we have themes of this manifesto. Progress, prosperity, and all this that we have been promising. And for every time we come to office, we promise to do better on what we have been able to do over the years. It's a continuous progress we've been doing. And that is what I'm saying.
Okay.
On agriculture, on energy, on roads, on water, on everything we've been promising. We keep building on the foundation we have put forward. And that's what I'm saying.
Let's check if Anne Adeke Ebajo agrees with you on your submission. Just pass the microphone to her.
Thank you very much, Charles. I received the report with open arms. I think that the evidence that has been given in the report speaks for itself, and the facts are very clear. Say, for instance, you speak about land. There was reference made to the 1998 Land Act, and the recent declaration by the minister, or statement by the Minister of Lands, that the guidelines on compulsory acquisition would be changed. Although the law indicates different, of course, in regard to how the NRM has been, and it's perfect because we have a very long period of time within which to judge what the NRM has been able to achieve, because 30 years is not just a second, it's so much time. I was born in the Museveni era in 1991, 5 years after the NRM had already begun to exist. So I think that that time frame gives us so much benefit to judge what has been achieved. And the first 100 days, what the report indicates is exactly what is on ground. When you look at the infrastructure issues, at energy, for instance, I have not seen so much being done about energy and focus on reducing the cost of energy, because when you speak about industrialization, and I think the main issue should be the cost of production. So when you speak about the cost of production, what is really being done to reduce that cost of production? And I haven't seen that being done in the first 100 days. In fact, just yesterday, there was a motion in Parliament about the dams, the construction, the infrastructure. It's too much. Yes, there is good infrastructure development going on, but what is the level of monitoring? How much money is being lost in this infrastructure development? And I think that the report has clearly indicated that.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Arias Lukwago, Omulodi, Lord Mayor, where do you think the 100 days from this report places the NRM government and President Yoweri Museveni in particular?
Well, we've already got a verdict and I think a tacit admission from my brother Richard Todwong that actually we have got a road deal. I mean, the last 100 days, there isn't much that we have achieved, and he said, don't expect much, because that you wouldn't expect something novel from a government that has been in power for the last 30 years. And indeed, he's suggesting we should have done an audit of the 30 years of NRM. And I think the next debate should focus on that. But having said that briefly, in this report, the scorecard is spot on, and they bring out salient issues. My attention is specifically drawn to the question of governance, where actually government itself admits the ideals spelled out in the National Development Plan 2 and the Vision 2040 cannot be achieved unless and until we sort out the governance question. The issues of rule of law, constitutionalism, justice, human rights, and so on and so forth, where we are scoring badly. And in the aftermath of the elections, the pictures, the images you have seen there, they tell it all. And in the last 100 days, I challenge any NRM ideologue here to tell us what they have done on that front. We who belong to the Defiance campaign, we insisted that the elections were marred by massive rigging. Actually, it was broad day robbery. And up to now, we have demanded for an audit, which has not been given. And there is no positive response. It is still the same old narrative that the opposition are bad losers, they are not ready to accept defeat, they should give up, they should go and hang, that kind of arrogance. And then you cannot score on the development the development side, unless you address the governance question. And that is a challenge we are still facing. Here in Kampala, for example, they have already launched Chisanja 2021, another Chisanja. Actually, they have made my work in Kampala as the Lord Mayor extremely difficult. However much I would want to focus on development, they have now turned the Kampala into a launch pad for another term for President Museveni. And the Minister for Kampala has not minced words on that. When they visited the Kawempe and they dished out, actually President Museveni is on an expedition to begin bribing people for the next Chisanja, giving out hands out, patronage and whatnot. And even areas where, in this report, just as I conclude, the areas where they should have focused so much, like on infrastructure transformation, planning, they have not been addressed. There is this specific damning report from World Bank that actually we have certain companies that have been blacklisted, like a China Railway Corporation, which messed up the Kamwenge Fort Portal Road, and it is that same company which is charged with infrastructure development here in Kampala, in charge of KIDP, Kampala Institution and Infrastructure Development Project, which is a key project worth $175 million US. It is in the hands of a foreign company called China Railway. So what do you expect from such a government?
If you could just hold it a little bit there. I was reading an article in the East African by Joachim Buemba, and he said, laugh at Kato, laugh again, then look in the mirror and laugh at what you see. You lead a local government, which is the Kampala Capital City Authority. So the audit of the first 100 days is an audit on you as a leader of a government. Does this report speak to you?
Certainly it does, but you have again to look at you have to focus on the mandate of the Lord Mayor. The law clearly states that I'm the political head of Kampala, and my mandate is political guidance, and I'm exactly doing that. I'm guiding the nation politically as the head of Kampala. So I'm executing my duties as the Lord Mayor. Even as I talk now, this is my mandate to bring out this issue. Information is power. Okay. I've told you the people who are in charge of infrastructure development have been blacklisted by World Bank.
For the sake of time, we'll let that pass and ask you to pass the microphone to Ofono Opondo to respond to what you've just been speaking about.
Thank you, and our audience. Like Richard Oduong, I haven't had the opportunity to read the report. I'm going to depend on what Sewa Chirenga said. 100 days. First of all, after elections, everyone knows that there were people who wanted Uganda to be ungovernable. I am happy to report that didn't succeed. Uganda has continued on a path of tranquility. The entire country. And I think under that 100 days, that is a commendable achievement. Secondly,
could you explain that, please? A path of tranquility.
Tranquility,
explain
yes.
that.
Tranquility throughout the country. And I think that's an achievement because there were clearly people who had planned that Uganda should be ungovernable. Secondly, at the economic level, we had anticipated, I think majority of Ugandans, that perhaps because of the anxiety, the tension of elections, investors would run away, inflation would go high, prices would go high, perhaps even commodities would not reach urban centers. I am again happy to report that 100 days, The economy was not paralyzed. It has continued to function, albeit perhaps at a slow pace for different reasons, internal, exogenous. May I just respond again to issues of infrastructure? No major program of government has been stopped, has been halted, has been curtailed, has been reduced. That in itself means that the government has continued with ability to continue with the program that we are going on. And just to remind you, our campaign theme was steady progress. And therefore, when you are examining 100 days, you should examine it against the background of steady progress. Is NRM keeping on track on the things that they were doing? And I say yes. May I respond to the issue of power? Yes, while we have not seen significant reduction or any reduction at all in the tariffs, I know, because I've been in the meetings, that the government has constituted committees, intersectoral committee, to discuss with the relevant investors what type of subvention should we make in order to lower the cost of power. That you don't expect to be achieved perhaps even within 1 year because the players are multiple, they are intricate.
Mr. O, if I could just interject just briefly, please, because your time is going to come for your panel. This was just a rejoinder. We just wanted you to... Does it matter to you how the tranquility that you talk about is achieved? Saying that in the first 100 days that we are talking about here, your government has been, or the government that you speak for, has been blamed for muzzling dissent, and perhaps this can be debated. Lukwago is here and all the others. Does it matter to you how the tranquility is achieved?
Well, the reason your parliament allocates money to the armed forces, including buying lethal weapons, I think in the wisdom of parliament, is that there are outlaws, there are people of bad faith who would want to blackmail everybody. And I think the measures that the government took are largely within the constitutional framework. And if the government went overboard, there are mechanisms for redress. And many people, some people who were dissatisfied, I am sure, took that recourse.
Can I come in there, Mr. Pono?
Yes,
Opondo? The question of governance in Arthur Larocque's presentation is a question the NRM government has tended to duck in the first 100 days. It wasn't talked about, apart from the president when he was addressing parliament and said Uganda has an oversupply of democracy. In the first 100 days, your main opponent spent 43 days in jail. In the first 100 days, the Inspector General of Police was dragged to court in his individual capacity for torture of citizens. In the first 100 days, 7 policemen, together with the IGP, are subject to a court process, and the police itself is undertaking measures to deal with excesses of the police force. Is that the audit of tranquility that you want to present?
Well,
to Ugandans watching you here and...
In those 100 days, Parliament was inaugurated, local councils were inaugurated, as you know. So, clearly, the balance, there are thousands of people in jail for different reasons. I don't know why you want to choose to pick on one, but unless they are saying they are in jail without the consent of the law, the thought of the law. But in those 100 days, Parliament was inaugurated, local councils were inaugurated, they are functioning. A government was formed. The other infrastructure of public life has continued to move on. I am not saying all has been 100% good. And by the way, I put a rider, I said, those who are dissatisfied about any other issues, the mechanisms for redress, which buttresses our governance mechanisms, have been available. So in the 100 days, Uganda wasn't at a standstill. Yes, there were things that might not have been, that didn't go well, but Uganda wasn't at a standstill. And the good thing is, it is not only Arthur Larocque's report that is going to inform discussion. Ugandans who are watching us I'm sure are going to give us a balance sheet.
Okay, we'll not belabor that because we have a lot of issues to discuss. We have to discuss actuals. I see Opondo is very mean on facts and figures, and yet the president gave a very detailed 23 directives to his cabinet.
Well, you should have asked me because
you had your time, sir.
I was simply saying, in those 100 days, for example, we have held at the national level
I'm afraid
four major meetings, retreats of the top echelons of government. Parliament was inaugurated, inducted, and started work. NRM caucus went for a retreat. Ministers and permanent secretaries, we have just concluded another major retreat with a view of doing 4 things. 1, call attention, collective attention to public duty. Secondly, try to re-identify obstacles. 3, agree on priorities. And 4, agree on the way forward.
Okay.
And I think those are major steps in the 100 days trying to achieve consensus where we must achieve consensus as we move.
Thank you. We will want as much as possible to involve you, the audience, especially the ones who are here, and those that are following us on other mediums. They should be able to send their comments via Twitter. We'll be able to pick them up and share with us here in the audience. Maybe, let me ask if we have someone with a microphone in the audience to be able to pick 1 or 2 questions to the panelists before we go to the other gentlemen and ladies, and the lady who are here with a question.
Sorry, when you're able to get the microphone. Hakuna mchezo. When you're able to get the microphone, please, your name, direct your question to the panelists, and keep it as brief as possible.
I understand that Dr. Fred Muhumuza is in the audience and would like to make a comment. Let me first start with him because he's been interacting on the practicalities of the first 100 days and specifically the promises. Dr. Muhumuza, to give us some bit more perspective. Yes, Dr. Muhumuza is seated right at the front here. Can you pass the microphone to him? You've seen the directives that the president has given, the numerous retreats that government has been involved in, involving permanent secretaries, heads of different departments in Chankwanzi, in Munyonyo, and elsewhere. Yes, if you could make your submission, if you'd stand up and make your submission, give us a summary of whether this speaks to Hakuna Mchezo or more of the same.
Thank you, moderator. Good morning. I think quite a number of things as I thought the things of Opondo has raised are the ones that were done before the election, the thinking of the priorities and the planning of those things. So now we'll be seeing practical things about what do we do going forward now that you're in power. Because those things of what you intend to do for people were done and presented in the manifesto. You don't finish the election and then you go into the prioritization. That was done and has been known. So what I would have expected to see in the first 100 days would be kind of conceptualization of exactly what is the problem. Because when I see every pronouncement that is being made, statements that are coming out of these retreats, I still see people saying we're now going to tackle this, we're going to tackle this. But this has been more of the things that were done before and have always been known. As we speak today, we have a suspension of the World Bank money because of lack of performance. This has been around. Every other year, government returns money, local governments, saying it was released late. Now here we are with projects whose money was received 5, 3, 4 years ago. Was also that late? So you would have loved to see a way of how do we that have been there for some time. What are we going to see if Hakuna Mchezo? Where are we going to fix the issues of corruption, the issues of government institutions that do not work? Because we are continuing to see the same challenges, universities on strike, poor payment, and now more are cropping up. And I think the president's one of the first instructions was about the power tariff. Now we've been trying to resolve the power deficiency. The power deficiency seems to have gone out, now have a power excess, but the tariff is not going down. So change of corruption that seems to be permeating everywhere. And for me, if within the first 100 days we get statements on how to exactly fix the corruption issue, institutional failures and weaknesses, that I would have at least appreciated that we are now beginning a journey, because it's all about the corruption, the institutional weaknesses. If you don't fix those, and also the ideological orientation, as the president put it in Nairobi, where is the new ideology that is going to take us forward? If we can fix those three, ideological orientation, institutional alignment and strengthening, and the corruption issue, that would be very good. But
all right, thank you very much, Dr. Fred Muhumuza, an economist and a former presidential advisor, if I'm not mistaken.
Advisor to the Minister of Finance.
Okay, great. It's now time to open up this discussion to the audience. Please restrict yourselves to the question and the panelists. Okay, my friend there is going to move the microphone for you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Chove Oscar. Definitely, I wanted to inform you, Charles, it's a comment.
Go ahead.
The theme Hakuna Mchezo, when the president was swearing in Kololo, he was kindly more emphasizing on fighting corruption and embezzlement. And it is being implemented. You are seeing officials being dragged to court, and some of them, their riches are being shown. Even you saw permanent secretaries, their wealth was being put on the newspapers. So they're going to
I think the president has explained himself and explained Hakuna Mchezo. Please go ahead and make your comment on the audit.
My comment is, the first 100 days, Charles, the president is sincerely on his fight towards corruption and embezzlement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will try and involve even the people seated behind so they don't feel isolated. Or, just move the microphone, please.
Thank you, Charles. Carlos Kanega is my name. I have two concerns. One goes to Honorable Ofono-Opondo. Mr. Ofono-Opondo emphasized on a few issues. Parliament is in place, local government is in place, and there's tranquility, there's development and steady progress, which could be right. But our concern is, in 1981 up to 1985, there was parliament in place, there was local government in place, there was an elected president in place. But some of us, if not most of us in this August House, weren't around, but we know these were there. We have a member representing us, Honorable Deke. So we know that these were around. But still, members, a generation of that time, took arms, left campus, universities, their work aside, and went to the bush to in their wisdom, a lot were not in place. There was no tranquility. There was no development. There was an emergency. They really felt that they should fight for this country. So we are tempted to believe that it's not about parliament. The actions tell that it's not about parliament, it's not about local government, it's not about an elected leader, but it's about leaders that really love this country, that put governance, put issues of democracy, to mention them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me have this lady here. I'm told every usher has a microphone. Yes, behind, the gentleman behind, please. There's already a microphone.
Thank you so much. My name is Muzera Tony Johnson. In these first 100 days, we have had so many issues. I've seen 68 million shillings to be spent on each enemy that dies, 200 million each on their car. Now, my question goes to Ofono-Opondo, Mr. Ofono-Opondo, with due respect. The Hakuna Mchezo campaign is about corruption, ending corruption and accountability. With this kind of expenditure, do you think, can we be able to achieve the middle class status if we still have this kind of expenditure? Thank you so much.
All right, let's take some questions in front here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Salam Musumba from Kamali FDC. I'm intrigued by the private sector-led economy that we've been talking about in the last so many years. And what I see in the last 100 days, we have a private sector that has collapsed, that is looking for a bailout. And I want to imagine this is steady progress. Because we must decolonize our economy. It's actually not an economy that we should talk about. I haven't heard of any other private sector-led economy like ours that collapses under its own weight, and where we allow money to go through the back doors to actually bail out. The farmers also need bailout. How are you going to equitably distribute the national cake when the first 100 days is about bailouts? Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's another lady on the other side, I think. Lady, gentleman, or lady?
We're trying to get to as many corners of this room as possible, and we hope we can get to all of you.
Thank you very much. My name is Sarah Hakelo. My first concern is about the panel. It's not representative enough of gender, and I'm very disappointed with NGO Forum because we needed to have more women there, and you know women are the majority voters. Secondly, the responses from my brother there, Ofano Pondo, and Honorable Richard Todong are very disappointing in regard to the fact that they're echoing the same style that we have seen this government responding to issues, criticism, analysis, assessments of how they do work. Going forward, I am not seeing the 100 days representative of how we are going to improve the biggest population. Those are the young people that Honorable Deke there is representing. She's my boss. I work at the Youth Forum in Parliament. We are not seeing, even in the Prime Minister's question time, we didn't see the Prime Minister come out to tell this country how they're going to do things differently to see that the youth issues are addressed.
Thank you very much. I think we better come back this side. We'll certainly come back to you. Please hold those questions for us. We're going to come back to you. And as predicted, Mr. Oo and Mr. Richard Todong have the most questions to answer. So let's take it on from Mr. Oo. Or any of you can, pick it on from there.
Sheila, before they come on, we would like to take a quick break because, as you know, that we have an audience in here and a TV audience. So I'd like to take a very, very short break. Please stay where you are. Process your questions. We will come back and have them answered. But we'll also bring in General Mugisha Muntu hasn't spoken, Bishop Zak hasn't spoken, Chairman Mao, Arthur, and the Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi. We'll try as much as possible to make sure that each one of us has an opportunity to make their comment.
If you just get your phones and I'll read out for you the password. Go to your phones. PH1 is the username. And the password is NGO@123. That is uppercase. I'll take that again. BH1 is the username. Small case, BH1. And NGO@123 is in uppercase. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheila. And welcome back, our TV audience. Let's, as we move on to the next part of the discussion, I would like to suggest that let's exhaust the question of the governance question, because it stands center. And we would have to come back to the audience. So Oo and Richard, hold the questions that have been put to you. I hope you have taken note of those questions. Let's run the question of governance and exhaust this. Exhaust it in the past 100 days. There were those continuing demonstrations at Parliament yesterday, becoming a lot more democratic now, because now we see different colors. Oo and Richard won't have to complain that they are painting them in only one color. General Muntu, you ran in this election as the Forum for Democratic Change with the presidential candidate. You ran in local governments. some of your members are within the audience here. The question of governance and democracy in the first 100 days, by Arthur's report, you had the comment and the conclusion that was made. What does that say to you, and how are you responding to it? There's a microphone on your table.
Thank you, Charles. Governance is at the core of the problems that we face as a country. It's quite surprising that the regime has not yet acknowledged that. As you can see in the first 100 days, they are not even focusing on it at all. In fact, the report, I think, indicates that seems General Museveni doesn't even think that governance is a problem. First, the first 100 days or the next 1,000 days, however many days, they are built on a shaky foundation. We just come out of an election which is contested. As Lord Mayor has indicated, we participated in that election, and as Forum for Democratic Change, up this point in time, we are still demanding for an audit of that election. Now, if you had a responsible regime, they would have paid attention to what was being voiced out all over the country. Opondo talks about tranquility in the country. But at what cost? Because people are not calm as you see things happening in the country because they are happy. There's a lot of fear in this country. People are simply cowed down. So don't look at the surface of things. There are fundamental problems that need to be resolved in this country. And I think the regime needs to listen more. Don't think that because the army and the police were able to suppress the aspirations of the people, not only in the towns but also as in the villages, that is enough. You can't continue moving like that in that direction. We think that we are going to have sustainable development or even stable security.
Let me make the comment that I think Opondo or Richard Todwong would make to you in the first 100 days. They will tell you that in these first 100 days, they've been able to increase their numbers in 5 districts in those residual elections that your party and the rest of the opposition were absent from.
What was the turn-up? Voter turn-up, less than 30%. These are new districts. The areas where these elections were conducted had just been given new districts. The population is like when you go to a place like Chibare or even Rwanda, there are some of the most backward areas in terms of development. If you look at a situation where a peasant who is crying for delivery of services and yet is willing to sell his or her vote at 500 shillings or 1,000 shillings, that's a fundamental problem. And attention needs to be paid to it. So the winning, their people are influenced differently. Fear, manipulation, money, and as responsible leaders, we need to focus on a number of these issues. My estimation of the situation where we are at, maybe we may be guided by the saying that doing the same things over and over, the same way, and expecting different results, as Einstein said, is a sign of madness.
Right? Sign of madness, it could be...
There must be madness in this country
Okay,
for us to expect that there's going to be any change, whether it's 100 days, whether it's 1,000 years.
Thank you very much.
General Museveni has indicated in his frustration, as he expresses it publicly, that now things are going to be different. He says this 5 years is going to be run on a slogan of Chisanja Hakuna Mchezo. No games. What does he do himself? He starts with games. Because as a leader of a country, when you go to an health center 3 and you fire medical workers at that center, you can imagine the structure of leadership between health center 3 and the presidency.
Thank you very much.
And another thing, you carry money as a president. You go take it to fruit vendors, or you take it to metal fabricators. As a president, that means there's a total breakdown of the delivery of services in this country.
Okay.
Thank you very much, General Mugisha Muntu. Now, of course, governance cannot be discussed in isolation with accountability. And I want to rope in Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, Butambala Member of Parliament. In the first 100 days, there's been a lot of uproar from the public about Parliament that is largely, of course, dominated by the NRM, but also there have been criticism about opposition members of Parliament who have, in a way, helped this regime in these first 100 days to remain unaccountable. And this is in terms of how you have decided to allocate yourselves monies to cars, to now what we are hearing, burial arrangements. Do you feel that as the opposition in Parliament, you have contributed to what we're seeing in these first 100 days?
I thank you. Foremost, I'm not a public relations officer of Parliament, and I'm not here to defend the institution of Parliament, because quite often, our first 100 days in Parliament happened to be a shadow minister for internal affairs. And I think we've used the platform of Parliament to make government accountable in far as police brutality is concerned. A grand motion was moved in Parliament.
Honorable Kivumbi, the question Sheila puts to you is your own accountability as members of Parliament that Ugandans are debating.
Well, first of all, if you want a broader accountability as an institution of Parliament, Parliament is a product of this society. This Parliament you have was constituted. It is 447. It was constituted in such a way as to attain a particular objective. And that objective is regime consolidation, which Parliament we have. The framers of our Constitution had said every constituency will be represented on average by 70,000 voters. So you qualify to have 70,000 people qualified to have a constituency. What happened is that in the last Parliament, there was an attempt to change the composition of Parliament. I know the questions you want to answer, me to answer.
It's not working. The question to you, Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, is have you as created an alliance, an unwhole alliance with the ruling party in the first 100 days to continue?
That is absolutely not true. I think the opposition in Parliament that I belong to which I'm also a member of Cabinet, we don't have an alliance with NRM, government in power. If anything, we have continued to push NRM to account. And I can go on and mention one event after another.
Honorable Chivumbi, please speak to the specifics that Sheila raised. Money for your cars, money for burials, medals. Those are the questions that Sheila was putting to you.
And just to help, I don't know who is sabotaging me really. Just to help you, yesterday we had a demonstration of pigs painted in colors of yellow and blue, which is a representation or a feeling within the public that you are in this together with the government to, what many would say, defraud the public.
I don't think that assessment is right, and it's absolutely wrong. First of all, I think the media and the general public are falling in the trap of government. Government is out to destroy the institution of Parliament and give it a bad name, whether opposition or government. What is happening in Parliament, for instance?
They have the majority. Why would they?
They have a majority. First of all, there hasn't been a debate in Parliament about the funeral cost for each 50 members of Parliament. That is the creation of the... Secondly, about cars of 200 million, which should be a big concern to the people of Uganda, because you have 447 members of parliament. Each of them is going to get 200 million for a car facility. What is happening is that I and others disagree with that figure. And we've made it quite clear as the opposition that, first of all, we don't agree that you need 447 members of parliament. That's the beginning point. Do you need that big parliament? As Uganda? Do we need it? Who has created the big parliament? It is NRM. For what purpose? For purposes of consolidating himself in power. Now, for you to turn around the debate and you want to blame the institution of parliament is to miss the point. That it is the creator of this parliament who wants to ensure he uses this institution to achieve his own objectives.
Well said, Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi. Let me rope in Honorable Chairman Mao, who represents, who is a party president, at some point was leading Go Forward, but that is now history. How would you respond to what Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi has been saying about opposition in alliance with the NRM?
I'm not a member of parliament. Those who send the pigs definitely are speaking for me also. I'm also extremely worried. If it is true the government is trying to make all the MPs to look bad, irrespective of political affiliation, the question should be, what can we do about it? I think the very loud silence of opposition members of parliament and the noise being made by some members of the opposition in defense of this self-aggrandizement does not help us at all. And it makes your allegation that the NRM is the one behind this thing not to be credible. It is possible to be few and to stand up to be counted. I was the chairman of Gulu district. I was entitled to a vehicle. For 5 years, I rejected. I crossed that item of 80 million every year for my vehicle. I kept borrowing vehicles from departments. If I wanted to use, I can borrow for health, I can use for... Because I was conscious. I think the ball is in the court of the MPs. You have got to show consciousness. Because Museveni wants to turn Uganda into a kind of Ethiopia, where the opposition is wiped out. Ethiopia is 100% ruling party. So the few of you, no matter how few you are, it is important that you stand up. I'm very pleased that you have stated here very clearly that you don't agree with the proposals on the floor. The question is, what is the position of the shadow cabinet that you represent? We in the political parties that want to replace NRM, because that's the role of the opposition. It's not just to keep annoying it. Annoying the NRM is not enough. Ultimately, we must replace it so that we are seen by the people here as the government in waiting. And I think that we have kept them waiting too long. Parliament is not looking good. Parliament has got to shape up. These allegations are affecting all of us. I'm definitely affected. People think all of us are in the banquet hall of NRM, whether you are inside Parliament or outside Parliament. By the mere fact that I lead a party which has MPs, I am guilty by association. I therefore would wish to say that that expression by the citizens is a sign of outrage.
Okay.
And there's no need for any MP to be defensive. And it is important for each MP to speak for themselves. You were not elected as a group. You were elected individually.
Thank you.
I understand even God will judge us individually. You will not go and say, we the Catholics, we have arrived. because you are led by somebody who is called by Mother Teresa, or you go and say, we the Protestants, we have arrived, simply because you are led by somebody considered to be saintly. They will say, come one by one.
Thank you. Chairman Mao, just before you hand over the microphone, your general comment on the first 100 days and the report that Arthur presented to us.
I have something to say. Obviously, this report is very similar to Sheila's miserable school report. And the NRM is also trying to behave like Sheila by providing excuses. It is our role to remind the NGO Forum that this is not the only report card. So this is not the report card. All of you have your individual report cards. How many of you young people here graduated and you don't have jobs? I think that's how a report card starts. It is a good sample. How many pensioners are here who have not got their pension? I mean, it doesn't require somebody with a PhD to go and do a field report with methodology. You only have to walk around Uganda with your eyes open.
Thank you very much.
You get the report card.
Thank you very much. Can
now,
I bring in? Yes.
I want to tell you about another report. I have just brought it up here. This was in January this year. It listed responses to the following question. What would you say are the 4 most serious problems facing Uganda? And I'm sure the NRM received it. This was a professional survey. These surveys seldom make us happy, all of us anyway, especially when they rank us low. But I think this one is in an area where we can all at least agree. It says the number 1 problem, 46% of those surveyed said the biggest problem is the high level of corruption. That's number 1. Not the Entebbe Expressway. Number 2, high rate of unemployment. Why? Because there is no production which should bring money to the country. URA is not collecting enough revenue. So we are really in the deep end. The 3rd biggest problem, increasing poverty levels. Today, while coming here, I was driving behind a guy riding a bike. He had a heap of sugar canes. I'm sure he left children and his wife pinning their hope for the day's meal on whether this sugar cane will be bought or not. So he has got to come and buy polythene paper, cut the sugar cane, remove the cover, pack it. That is what value addition to him is. You know, so that it is bought in a kavera instead of chewed natively the way we do it in my village. Now, that is, so we are simply agreeing with the NGO Forum that the government is not being responsible, because responsibility means ability to respond.
Thank
the
you.
government is not responding to the real problems of Uganda, which is corruption, high level of unemployment, increasing poverty levels. Inadequate health facilities and services is number 4. Number 5 is poor roads and transport system. The government has turned it upside down and put high infrastructure budget, because that is how the corrupt cabal get the heavy contracts in alliance with their foreign fellow crooks, and they continue to make money to come and give us soap, sugar and salt. We continue putting them, and as Todong said, it is the same merry-go-round.
Thank you.
All over again.
Bishop.
And that therefore means I agree with this report card. But as it is said, time will tell.
Thank you.
Ultimately. And then all these are a result of the poor governance. In fact, I would reduce this long report card into just 4 subjects like PLE. 1 is governance. The government is very inefficient. If you think I'm joking, go now to try and pay for a license to start trading. Those of you young people who want to do trading, they'll toss you around. Health inspector wants something. This one wants something. Now they say 2 days. The government has said licenses for investments will now be 2 days. Why should they discriminate against local investors? Whether I'm investing 200,000, I'm an investor.
The government should be happy with me. It is not only me.
We'll be coming back to you,
and
Chairman,
the question
now.
of national unity.
Yes.
Is Uganda united now? I think the country is falling apart. That's why Arthur spoke of the need for a new national consensus. Where is that national reconciliation bill you are talking about? There is the question of an economy which is running away from us. Museveni promised an independent, integrated, self-sustaining national economy. Our economy is not national. It's run from headquarters of European capitals and America and South Africa. Our strategic companies have been given away. How do you give away the management of your electricity to foreigners?
Okay.
How do you give away the management of your all the strategic things?
Thank you.
I am very disappointed in this government, but I like being fair. I am happy that they have at least planned. I come from the party of truth and justice. So in all fairness, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
I will wait and we come and now
thank you, Chairman
see
Mao.
the end of the term. Let's say this is the beginning of term report card. How will the end of term report card? But as the Lord Mayor said, given how they have performed in the previous years of 30 years, the school definitely must already have a draft letter of dismissal.
Thank you very much. Chairman Mao has a way with words, so let me bring in Bishop Zach Niringi. The conceptualization, Bishop, of this debate is premised on the fact that in the first 100 days, a new government has opportunity to set plans and priorities. We tend to have seen a bit of that. The question to you is, from Arthur's report, are these plans as set out, can they give us confidence that the NRM can, in the next 5 years, deliver on the promises they have made both in the manifesto, in the National Development Plan, and the priorities that the President set out?
Thank you very much, and appreciate this conversation. I think your question about the future, you see, if you don't have a sense of your past, you therefore don't know where you are, and you don't know where you are going. So we can't simply speak about the 100 years, and as somebody has rightly said, we really must be thinking about, because it's not a new government, let's not kid ourselves. This is not a new government. This is the same government. And Richard has been very honest, and Richard has been very clear. To expect something different, you would be foolhardy. I don't know why we are struggling with this. It's very obvious. Arthur Alok says to us, there is nothing new, no new ideas, no new priorities, no action that benefits the citizen, no new ways, no actions. So, very simple. Here is the point. What this report is really saying, Arthur Alok, I propose a new title, and this is it. 100 days of more fraud. 100 days of more fraud. Because you don't expect a president that comes to power fraudulently to deliver anything else but fraud. You see, take us back to 1980. For me, and I agree with Richard on this, that the comparison with Roosevelt is not helpful. I think the comparison we should do is 1980 elections. So Obote 2. So fast forward 100 days of Obote 2. What are we examining? A fraud. Obote stole an election, and there are some who decided, because this is fraud, let's review, audit this thing in the bush. Here we are auditing a fraud in a hotel. That's part of our problem.
Are you
That's
calling
part of our
for
problem.
the same thing that happened in 1980?
No, I am simply saying let's now discuss the fraud and what we do with thieves. You don't discuss, is a problem. Of course we'll sit with our thieves, because the thieves are ours. These thieves are ours. They are our fathers, they are our mothers, they are our children. And it's very clear, it's very obvious. It's 100 days of fraud. You know, in 1980, some of us made the mistake that we are making today. The majority of Uganda hoped, Obote, you know, let's give him a chance. My brother here, DP, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. There were those who said, enough is enough. We must resist this thing so it collapses, so we can start again. The tragedy, of course, those who resisted that thing have produced something exactly the same, stealing from us. Parliament is a center for stealing. State House is a center for stealing. I mean, what should we say? Citizens, let's recognize we have a fraud. The day after the elections,
I just my last comment this.
The day after elections, I'm very clear.
Yes.
The day after elections, I released a statement, and I said this: let no one deceive us, neither international or local. The presidential elections were stolen. The evidence is overwhelming. My friend, we are reviewing somebody who stole an election. We have done nothing about that theft, and we hope things will be well. What did he do? He released the arsenal of the military to deal with us. So, if we as a country don't deal with the fraud, the theft, we will be, and we are going to pay heavily.
Okay.
We are going to pay very heavily. We paid heavily with the rebellion and scars of Ruwero. We can talk about the scars of northern Uganda. We can talk about the scars of Teso. We are going to pay heavily if we don't face the fact that we have thieves in charge of this country.
Thank you, Bishop. I think you've made your point, and they are able people to respond to you. Ofono Pondo and Richard Todwong will respond to you. But let me just, Sheila, if you'll allow me, Oracho Sinde represents the Uganda People's Congress, and Bishop has just alluded to 1980, but he had a comment he wanted to make. Pass him the microphone, please. Gentleman in the front row there.
Thank you very much. I am so honored.
Do you want to stand up, please, so that we can have you, and for our cameras?
But keep your comment brief.
Michael Rachosinde is my name. I'm the spokesperson of the party. I'm glad to hear the comments of Bishop Nyiringie to begin with, but I think he fell short also to mention that there are some bishops like him who have taken envelopes from the same government of Uganda. We don't know what the church is actually up to. But whether he's a victim or not is another matter. I wanted to go to my issue. Just to Atalarok, I was so humbled to listen to your fact-finding, especially on Hakuna Mchezo. And you posed a very important aspect: boldness or newness. In my view, you fell short of bringing out another very big component of dialogue, which we saw through IPOD, when the four political parties, Museveni for the first time accepted to go and meet them and talk, which used not to be the issue in those other days. This level of boldness, I don't know why you put it out, because we are all saying we can't afford to go for another Luero, and that to solve the equation of Uganda tomorrow, there is need to dialogue like we're doing. It is important to talk with everybody. Some people believe that you will eliminate Museveni. We want to suggest that it is important in the table where they are dialoguing, Museveni has to be one of the person who should attend. When he attended, some of us were running away. Do we suggest that we want again to go to Luwero, or we should talk and agree for a way forward? This did not come out at Alarok in your whatever, meaning that one would easily agree with what Todwong said, that since it is originating from people who believe like you, chances were that other aspects were left. We are very keen. Secondly, Ndugu President of FDC, I just want to put this question. Does FDC believe in IPOD, that it's important always to dialogue and talk issues out rather than going out for war? I would be glad if the President of FDC addresses this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was a representative from the Uganda People's Congress. Like we informed you, I need to be advised on my camera. Our home audience has been sending us questions, and I'll just need to read a few of these. Most of them are obviously directed to the two officials from the Hakuna Mchezo fame. At Father Gaetano, what is the difference between fundamental change and Hakuna Mchezo. And unfortunately, they've not put who exactly, but I guess the two will be able to answer. And at Gerard Dam says, are they bothered? Do they care about your report card? I don't know. At Davis Kawalia says, he has been constructing roads since he started. I'm assuming that is President Yoweri Museveni. What's new? And perhaps lastly, at Angela Simwe says, why is the president promising more dams when existing electricity is unaffordable? Let me just rope in Arthur LeBrock very briefly before we can come back to you. You answer your questions as well. You have listened to all these comments, feedback, submissions from the panelists. Is this what you expected while you were, writing this report?
We need a microphone here.
Okay, as they prepare to do that.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I do appreciate those who have found merit in the analysis that we did. In terms of the expectations with regards to the response, I think Ugandans have reached a point where we enjoy talking about the problem and not thinking about what needs to be fixed. And I think I have got more of the same in this conversation. And that's why I think my response will be structured around building on what the spokesperson of UPC just said, as well as a few things that President Mao and Mugisha Muntu emphasized. I believe that no matter where we find ourselves as a country, we have the imagination as a people to overcome that. We need to fight for the environment necessary for us to unleash that imagination. So if you think about how the youth yesterday acted with those pigs, I think it was an expression, and I think you've captured this well. But did you imagine, one observation I made yesterday was the response the police had on those animals. They were really, the police is waiting for an opportunity to just unleash terror on literally anything. What does that tell you? A pig died. A pig died yesterday on the street. The way they treat opposition is the same way they treat animals. I think that was a significant message. I do not believe that different ways in which we express ourselves should be responded to in the way we saw what happened yesterday. So I want to build on just two things, and I wind up. I think overall there is a consensus that the assessment reflects the reality. Many respondents have adequately dealt with what OO and Richard Todwong mentioned. I don't need to re-echo those because I think they were compellingly responded to. But Mugisha Muntu reminds us that fundamentally, if you get your foundation wrong, it doesn't matter how many days, years, weeks you do an assessment. And I agree with him that fundamentally the foundation around people, around governance, around systems in this country, and we need to fix that first and foremost. So the slide that we have on the presentation has directives on governance and a question mark with a cartoon. And the point there really is nothing has happened. And so if nothing has happened on the foundation, it is foolhardy. So Richard is right. Don't expect much, just like Bishop said. So I think there is an incredible opportunity. There is an incredible opportunity for this country to get back to that new consensus Mao has just emphasized. We've had simmering conversations from different sections of the population calling for a national dialogue. This national dialogue should not be about political parties or political leaders. It is not a political negotiation.
Okay.
We need consensus on some fundamental things about this country. That, for me, I believe the NRM that has the power at the moment should be providing the platform necessary for the authentic dialogue, so that opposition, civil society, private sector, church, whoever it is that has a contribution about a new consensus can make that contribution. The moment you push away space for this national conversation, we will be here 10 years from now, and I fear that the cost, like Bishop said, will be very high for the nation.
Thank you very much.
That's
I'm afraid I have to
the
cut you
essence.
off. I'm really, really sorry. It may sound very rude. Thank you very much. In case you're watching, you've just joined us, you're watching the Grand Citizen Debate, taking stock of NRM's 100 days. Now, I'm glad we've been able to have, yes, I'm coming to you, we've been able to have all our panelists contribute or submit. Now, one of the highlights, of course, of these 100 days has been the 23 directives. Oh, okay. I think I'm energized now. The directives that the president gave, and one such directive was on agriculture. If you could allow me read for you what he said exactly. He said, converting 68% of the homesteads in subsistence agriculture to commercial agriculture. But there is a fear among the public, Mr. or Richard Todong, whoever can be able to pick the mic first, that as much as the president has said there needs to be increased mechanization in agriculture, this does not reflect what he said while on the campaign trail, where he promised, how many hoes were they? 18 million hoes to farmers in West Nile. He talked about, all sorts of things that do not in a way translate to the directives. And so the question is, has the president not created a ground for these directives to work, considering the different contradictions that have come out from his speech and from these directives? You can answer that and also take the questions that were put to you by the audience.
Thank you, Sheila, and I want to thank you for all the comments you have made. Let me just make this very clear. NRM and government are not in any way afraid of scrutiny. If we were, we wouldn't have come, we would have dodged, or we would have had the physical means of preventing this meeting to take place. Yes. It has happened.
That sounds like a threat, though.
Is that a threat? I am saying, if that was our intent, 100 days from 15th December 1980, there is a gentleman in this room who had taken to the bush. There's a gentleman on this panel who had taken to the bush. 100 days from 15th December 1980. I want to answer, I'm answering the question of the person who said we had a parliament then. You can ask this gentleman who's on this panel why he didn't choose to use the platform of that parliament. The fact that you have grievances, but you haven't taken to the bush, it means, impliedly, that you have some level of confidence in the mechanisms that are available to seek redress, at least for now. And we would want that atmosphere to maintain. 2, Hakuna Mchezo, there's a book I like so much, I don't believe in it, the Bible. There's Genesis, there's Lamentation, and there's Revelation. I think human life is like that. We need to have a conversation that is continuing until we reach optimum consensus on the things that need to be done. Then the other issue is, I like the grandstanding of Honorable Mao, of General Mugisha Muntu. New districts were created, and according to you, elections where you feel that the candidates you lost because those peasants were rewarding NRM. What explanation does General Muntu give for Ntungamo, a very old district, for Kajara, where he comes from, not producing an FDC successful candidate? Is it also because he's new? So really, this grandstanding, I think we need to deal with it at some point. The other issue, I wouldn't wish that Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi or our young comrade Adeke is tempted by the 68 million and they die, so that the parliament spends 68 million on them. But I think it is legitimate for the public to be angry when our leaders elected and appointed go on an escapade of self-aggrandizement. I think the onus is on members of parliament and parliament as an institution to explain why they have chosen to satisfy their stomach before, and when they know the rest of society, majority of society, are in need. I think that is, and you can see the response that was enlisted yesterday. Laroque is talking about the force of the foot of the policeman who stepped on the pig and crushed it. How about in the afternoon, when Parliament sat? The tone of members of Parliament yesterday afternoon against the media, against anybody who was criticizing this obvious aggrandizement, greed of members of Parliament, was telling if you were to give them the executive authority, what would they have done? Let me turn to your question.
Oh, there's a question before you turn to mine. There's a question by Honorable Salam about the private sector-led economy that has collapsed.
You see, Honorable Salam Musumba was the chief executive of a district. We would have to audit her 5 years. What did she do as chairperson?
We'll have a session for that.
To promote local private sectors in Kamuli. I am sure that was the time we talked about jiggers in people.
Now answer the question, please. Thank you.
But the private sector, one of the 23 guidelines, by the way, of the president is that one of our biggest challenges or obstacles is a weak private sector. That's one of the 23 directives. And the president is saying, and the government is saying, what do we need to do to create, build, strengthen, support the private sector that is emerging? One of the measures government has recommended is that there should not be interference, particularly by public officials, with private investors. The other tier is what Honorable Ma was talking about. Don't frustrate private investors, local or foreign, if they want to register business, they want to do business, they want to do this. Don't frustrate them. The third area, at a national level, the directive is saying, can we recapitalize UDB? Can we rethink the policy on cooperative bank?
Mr. Pondo,
can we rethink the policy, the support mechanism
can I put in a
we
rejoinder
give
there,
to farmers?
please?
And these, in our view, if well done, combined, should lead us to a better private sector.
Yes, sir. The question that I think Father Gaetano sent was saying, as an NRM, and I think the people who put this research together were having difficulty how to assess 100 days out of, today would be 11,083 days that the NRM has actually been in power in total. And the question from Father Gaetano is, from fundamental change in 1981 to Kisanja Hakuna Mchezo in 2016, would you be talking about if we do this? Or you would be saying, we have done ABC, and if you pick the Honorable Salam Musumba's question, says the private sector is in doldrums, the economy is struggling. And you're saying, if we do this, are you actually subjecting yourself to accountability? You said you're open to scrutiny, but not on accountability.
I am saying hakuna mchezo like the fundamental change is a clarion call. Fundamental change, the General Motors came, they sacrificed. And this, hakuna mchezo, is another clarion call that can we recommit ourselves to public, collectively to public duty, to individual obligations as Ugandans.
Can I read that to mean another slogan?
Yes. So, Hakuna Mchezo is really, Hakuna Mchezo is a clarion call for recommitment to collective public duty. That when you are given public resources, can you do due diligence with those resources? This is what it means. And I have just said that there are a combination of things that government has proposed that if done, if we can refine them, will create a better atmosphere for public investment, for private investment.
Thank you.
And some of the things I've said here is recapitalize UDB, create the youth fund, create the women fund, so that perhaps if you create the women fund, if well administered, youth fund, if well administered,
yes, Mr. Pondo,
we should be able to create and support and nurture and mentor private investors.
I hear you in your response, and maybe Richard could help you there. The question is, you had a clarion call in 1981. You have had opportunity every 5 years to renew that commitment. The question is, where are we in the first 100 days on those many renewals of commitment?
Honorable Richard can take it.
In the church, we call it rededication. I think this Hakuna Mchezo is a rededication. We go to church every Sunday. It has been around for 2,000 years, over 2,000 years. And this is the rededication. What I am saying is, and this, I just want to conclude with this, that in my assessment, in our assessment, the last 100 days, the meetings we have held, there seems to me that there is emerging a new consensus that things need to be done differently and better. And we hope at the end of 5 years, we shall go back to the field with Honorable Mao. I don't know whether he will be in TDA or elsewhere, and the rest of Ugandans will give us the scorecard, the real scorecard now.
Thank you.
All right, Honorable Richard, if you could pick on from the question about agriculture and the contradictions that keep coming out, especially with what the President says on the campaign trail and what he says in his directives in the 100 days.
Can I just add to that as you respond to that question? The highlights that Arthur gave us, one was the promises and what has been done on agriculture so far in the first 100 days. The other was on the question of investment. There was on energy, on industry, the debate about the donations that the President has been giving and what this means. But fundamentally, the question Sheila is raising, the promise of hose in West Nile was on the campaign trail and is not anywhere in your manifesto. But we also haven't seen it translated into government policy in the first 100 days.
Thank you. I need to start by making two clarifications. My friends here have made quite some unfortunate allegations, but I need to make it clear. The NRM we serve, the NRM that I belong to, the NRM that General Mugisha Muntu helped fight to bring to power, has principles on which it stands. And these principles have remained, which are categorized under 4 pillars: patriotism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy. And these are the standard principles on which we keep building our subsequent manifestos with different themes. When we talk of steady progress, we talk of steady progress based on the previous achievements we have scored as a party. Definitely the principles of a political party are based on ideological beliefs. So when I say, don't expect things differently, because NRM is not different from the NRM that you have known all these years. We are not bias that keep changing, like today I'm in TD something, go forward or what. No, NRM is NRM and NRM will remain NRM. Now, we share these responsibilities with friends. The Lord Mayor here is denying responsibilities. Okay? When you're gauging 100 years of NRM in Kampala, the Lord Mayor should not run away from responsibilities. Under democratic principles and the pillar of NRM, he was elected and he defeated our candidate. And we're saying, now the people of Uganda have given us mandate as leaders to serve them. Lord Mayor and NRM, let's work together to serve the people. But the Lord Mayor say, I'm not there. Now, what is this? Honorable Chivumbi's FDC is in Parliament. When Parliament is allocating themselves money for burial, money for cars, money for this, the chairman of the president of the Democratic Party is saying they are quiet, they should speak louder. Their silence is a betrayal. And he's saying it is NRM that has created more constituencies and districts. Why did you contest if you are genuine? You should have said, for me, I'm genuine enough, I'm not going to be part of this. We would have respected you. But you participate, you are given, you contribute, and then you turn to say, I am not, Uganda will not be developed by double standards. Now, coming to the way we plan, I'm happy that Comrade Chair Mao acknowledged the principle of planning in NRM. You cannot do anything without planning. And I think that is why the population of Uganda trusts NRM more than any of these political parties we have. From Democratic Party, UPC, Forum for Democratic Change, and many others. We have been winning elections right from the time we changed from a movement system to multi-party political dispensation. We compete with these gentlemen. In the last, just concluded mini election, we defeated DP in Omoro. We defeated FDC in Omoro. We defeated UPC in Omoro. We defeated FDC in Kagadi. He came, Honorable General Mugisha Muntu was there. They spoke whatever they are speaking to the population, but the people said, no, we've heard you, but we are not following you. The president of FDC is promising defiance, that the people of Uganda should defy the government they have elected. The people say, no, we shall follow this government, but we shall defy you instead. And that is what Honorable Comrade Ofono is saying. So when we are saying we don't... Okay, I'm coming to the issue of the youth. Somebody raised the issue of the youth and all that. And women. When we plan, we know the population of Uganda is way over 35 million people. Public service is close to about 400,000 employees. Remove that from the total population of Uganda, we have a population of about 33.6 million Ugandans that we should plan for. Remove those going to school. Remove those, you remove the different categories of population that are engaged. You'll see the number of people and the number of the population of Uganda that we should plan for. And when we bring our manifesto cuts across gender, social differences, and ethnicity, religion, and everything. And we bring it forward. And then that brings me to the issue of why we have been holding these retreats. We are holding these retreats because we are sharing governance with the people who are not constitutionally supposed to be partisan, the civil servants. So we need to bring the civil servants on board to say the people of Uganda have elected we in NRM as a party, you are civil servants, this is what we have promised them. We need to agree with you on how we shall implement this. That was why we went to Chankwanzi, that was why there was cabinet retreat, and that is why there is ongoing intersectoral dialogue with the leadership of the party.
Honorable Tudong, if you could just allow me, please.
I'm coming to the issue of agriculture.
Yes, I'm going to let you go there. What the report actually captures is that you have not failed to plan. In fact, you have been praised for the planning that you have done. However, what the report captures is the implementation gaps that are not addressed. And that many a times, these implementation gaps have led to the failure in government programs. It is that failure, those implementation gaps that we need you to address and tell us how differently you have done that in the 100 days.
There is a history to everything. There is a history to everything. I was in the last parliament, the 9th parliament. When we went to Chankwanzi and changed our planning formulas to say we no longer give this manifesto to the civil servants alone to plan. We as a political party should take the lead. And that was how we managed to focus on infrastructures. we focus on things that the people of Uganda were asking the party to do. And we changed the budgeting. And I'm speaking with pride that now in that manifesto, we promise better national road network. Now you can drive from one corner of Uganda to another on tarmac. We promise extension of electricity to all the districts of Uganda. As I speak now, 98% of the districts of Uganda are connected on the national grid. We promise better health care. Our philosophy on health is that we start with prevention other than cure as a party. And our intervention in health is well known to everybody. We phased out health centers 2s and upgraded them to health centers 3s. We are stocking them. We are planning and making sure the people of Uganda receive the services they deserve.
Mr. Todong,
we did the same on education. On education, we said we need to reprogram our curriculum. Our enrollment rate in public universities and other institutions per year is that we enroll 345,000 students in public universities per year. And we expect every year, hopefully, to be graduating this, meaning we are getting out more graduates who are supposed to be employed. Now, public service cannot take all these graduates. We need to open up the economy to private sector, what Comrade Salam Musumba said. Now, when we are investing in rural infrastructure to open up the economy, to improve agriculture, to invite investors, to do all that we are doing is to answer the issue of unemployment and to answer the issue of refocusing our planning and our... Now, all these are things we have been doing as a party. And that is why when we go out of the comfort of the cities and the comfort of the conference halls and we debate with our comrades, with the voters, including you, we win them on the polls.
Mr. Todong,
because we are genuine and honest.
Can I bring the focus back to the report? The things that you're raising, the report exactly tackles those. The difference is there are many contradictions. The report finds that on health and education, you're focusing on infrastructure, hardware, and not the software. The report finds that on energy, yes, you're talking about investment in dams, but the majority of Ugandans still are not connected, and the power that is being produced in this country, over 200 megawatts, are not being consumed in this country. And that's the kind of accountability that the audience here and people following us expect from you. If you have a population that is so steeped in poverty that it cannot consume the power that you're talking about, what is the value of a photo opportunity of you launching another dam project somewhere?
We used to have, let me use this, we used to have a madman in our village. And this man, whenever he wants to go out to ease himself, he would ask himself a question that, should I first susu and remove my trouser, or should I remove my trouser and susu? Because it all comes to planning. Everything starts with the planning, my friends. When we emphasize in planning, when we emphasize in building cohesion among government leaders, when we emphasize in calling upon the Lord Mayor to work together with the director of KCCA, when we emphasize that leaders should be focused at service delivery for now, and we forget politicking, that is the reason we are saying once we do that as leaders, Uganda will move far than where it is now. But to say other leaders are clean, it is NRM that is bad, you wash your hands, throw NRM to the dustbin, this, we are being dishonest ourselves, and we shall be deceiving you, the population of Uganda. And I'm telling you, as long as we speak genuinely and honestly from our hearts, without covering our internal personal interest in some of these things, Uganda will never see the light it wants to see. I want to assure you that if you are genuine enough, pick the manifestos of all these political parties and go through them. What FDC is promising is exactly what is in NRM manifesto. What the UPC is talking about is exactly what is in NRM manifesto.
Honorable Todong,
oh yes. They will talk about roads, they will talk about electricity, they will talk about agriculture, they will talk about health. The difference is how do prioritization, how do we as a party prioritize our responses to all these concerns? I think you've decided not to answer the question,
which is okay. You've decided not to answer the question, which is okay. and we are constrained for time. So we need to be able to wrap this up in the next few minutes. And we need to have every member of the panel here have an opportunity to make a comment. Sheila, if we could use maybe about 3 minutes and pick 1 or 2 more comments from the audience. Direct questions that speak to the report.
Okay, please be as gender sensitive as possible. Your name, your question, and the panelists you're directing the question.
Focus on young people as well. Pick some more young people because...
All right, as the motion states on the banner, the Grand Citizens Debate. I'm a citizen from Tertiary First Royal University, Kakeka. I call myself the Lord Mayor of Kakeka. So the Lord Elias there, if you come there, Kakeka is settled. So my query is to the Lord Mayor. Stick to your point. You have the enthusiasm, the fearing. No one will ever, as the Lord from Kakeka, put the emphasis.
Please ask your question. We are constrained by
question.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Nisi Matone and I come from Wales. Now, I would like first talk about the 100 years of
NRM. 100 days, not 100 years.
It's 100 days, not 100 years.
About the 100 days of NRM. I would like first talk on the issue of the health. I was reading the newspapers yesterday and I found that one of the health centers called Abim has been renovated, and after which it was renovated after one of the presidential candidates over the last year, we started the government of ignoring the health. So I think this thing of Hakuna Mchezo should go to FDC, not NRM.
Thank you.
And now the second...
I think you made your point. Thank you very much. We are constrained for time. We have about 7 minutes to end this. I'm not selecting. There is a lady there who is helping us select. Big hand.
Thank you very much. My name is Owori Moses Kibange. I have a question for Ofono Pondo, who is smiling, and Todwong. I think, in my observation of the topic in respect to these guys we are discussing, is that they really don't feel their 100 days. The 100 days seems to be something not in their imagination. Because in submission of Mr. Todwong, he wants us to look at NRM the same from the time when they came in place. So they are not concerned about this 100 days. And I think from the events how they unfold, it is evident that issues that have been before this new elections, this new time from February 2016, they are recurring and they are continuing. The continued suffocation of the space for expression, the corruption, and several many other evils that are happening.
Thank you very much.
Continuing.
Thank you.
And so to them, it's not anything
Thank
big.
you.
They will tell us if they feel the 100 days.
I'm sorry, there are many people who want to make comments now, but time is not our best ally. Let's... No. I don't think we agreed on that, sir. Sorry. we need to bring this discussion to an end. Let's allow 2 people. No, we'll pick 4 hands. But if you're asking a question, if you dilly-dally, we'll take the microphone away. So allow the gentleman who had picked the microphone. Mwizuche there is an MP from the FDC. There is the Honorable Mike here, Sebalu. And the lady there. 4 questions.
Thank you. My name is Jerry Otieno. I subscribe to the NRM.
Please ask
However, I am disappointed. Are we not causing generational fail in terms of education if we are not considering education a priority?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Honorable Sebalu here.
Thank you. Mike Sebalu. Mine goes to the Lord Mayor. You'll appreciate that there is a winning manifesto that is supposed to apply universally across the country. Are you aware, as an elected leader in this government, that you are supposed to make a contribution to ensure that the residents of Kampala, likewise benefit from the implementation of this manifesto?
Thank you.
Are you aware that you have a role to play in this regard?
Thank you. Francis?
Thank you very much. I want to make two quick comments. One,
Could you make one comment, please?
for the first time, you'll find a spokesperson of government attacking an institution of government. You need to understand where this is coming from. That even if police was doing dirty work, the spokesperson will attempt to defend it. But he will do whatever it takes him to attack Parliament the way he does. There is diversion, ladies and gentlemen. I think there is a deliberate move by the person that is supposed to be fought to divert people who are fighting him. And the public is falling into a trap. They are looking at symptoms rather than the problem. They think the problem of Uganda is Parliament. But somebody is bringing about that problem. Not because government is doing it right, but because I see, look at the comments of Todong, Honorable, against Parliament, of Fonopondo, you even hear the President, yet all monies that goes to actually members of Parliament, it is discussed in caucus first, is discussed in Changwanzi. So you know what is happening, but they want to divert you to think that the problem is members of Parliament. Okay. That is not that members of Parliament don't have their own challenges, but there is a diversion game.
Thank you, Honorable.
And I'm sure Museveni has, having been in the bush,
Thank you.
he knows how to divert the enemy.
The diversion will be discussed in. I hope the diversions are discussed in the caucuses of the different parties, and we have the party presidents here. I hope there's a discussion going on whether there is a diversion or the public has a genuine concern about what is going on at Parliament. I promised a lady there. There is a young lady there. One person, and then we'll come back here and close this. Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Fiona Katsigas. I'm having like two concerns, or I would like to inform Honorable Elias Lukwago. You are using I think as if you are not sure what you are saying. Point one. Point two. When you point someone like this, these remaining fingers point to yourself. As you, a mayor, what have you done to show the public that really you are dying of that people?
Thank you.
Point number two. I would like to inform the members of Parliament that the reason of creating many districts is to bring services nearer to people. If it was not like that, you would not be here participating in that debate. Thank you, Alon.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. Sheila?
Yes, thank you very much. Of course, the beauty with the debate is that all of us have an opinion, just like a nose. We all have a nose. We all have an opinion. So we take it in good strides. I think we can now throw it back to the panelists.
Let's come back to the panel. We have about 7 minutes. So each panelist will have less than a minute to make a comment, including those who have to respond to specific questions. And then after that, we'll have to launch this report because we have to get out of here in the next few minutes. So let's start with those who have questions to respond to, and then run around the panel to close this debate.
Okay. Lord Mayor, we probably can start with you. You have some questions. Honorable Sebalu put you a question, if you could respond to that.
Thank you, Honorable Sebalu, for the question you have raised. But of course, you know, there are lingering questions about that purported victory of NRM. They are unresolved issues. And that is the reason we have demanded for an audit, which audit is yet to be accepted by your own party. But that said, look at the political dynamics at play in Kampala right now. You have a president who is obsessed with power. And you have a Lord Mayor who is coming up with fresh ideas. He's coming with a vision for the transformation of Kampala. Yes, there is a kind of a mismatch. You know, somebody who has been in power for 30 years and is still obsessed with the power. He wants even to suffocate the little political space we have. What do you do with such a person? Put yourself in my shoes. But even to conclude on that matter, he has clearly demonstrated he does not have any trust in the elected leadership in Kampala.
Okay.
That's why he is giving out money. Instead of, because Kampala, we generate 70% of the national GDP, the national budget. The national budget currently stands at 26 trillion Uganda shillings. But what comes from Kampala here, in the collections you are making, income tax, VAT, import duty, and whatnot, is close to 70%. But what do you return? And even that comes into our budget. It's just peanuts. It is not enough to transform Kampala into a modern capital city. And he's doing it now personally. He doesn't want to follow the orthodox methods of saying, let it go through the coffers of KCCA. He puts it in his pocket, moves it to Katwe, he finds their metal fabricators, say, akamwe kako. So what do you wait? He goes to Kawempe, he does the same. He goes to car washers in Wandege Yakatanga, he does the same. Now literally, he is a walking ATM. So what do you expect me to do?
Thank you very much.
What do you expect me to do?
Pass the microphone.
He's a walking ATM machine.
Yes, pass the microphone to the next person.
Would you permit me 1 second to talk about national dialogue?
I'm afraid we are
Just
coming
what? National dialogue.
The dialogue is ending.
Consensus, building a new consensus?
I don't want Honorable Mayor, other people to be cut off before we lose the other audience.
Thank you.
Kindly. Let's have a comment from Anna Deke.
Thank you.
You represent the largest constituency here. In closing this discussion, your last comment, and then we'll move across.
I think just to help you as you conclude, the issue of the youth and political participation. Many also feel that as a youth, you have not been grounded enough in what you need. You have not been able to, as we the youth, you have not been able to stand up and speak, and instead you've been swayed by whichever political party comes your way with the biggest stack of money. You can also answer that.
I think that the plight of young people and how susceptible they are to bribery is a reflection of the kind of system we have grown up in, the kind of system that has nurtured us, because it is a totally crooked system. It's a system that is valueless and does not want to impart the best in the young people. So I think the young people are just a reflection of what has obviously been going on since birth through their growth and development. It's only natural that they should be susceptible to electoral bribery and be easily used by the political leadership. Of course, when you look at the balance of wealth and the effects of corruption, there are specific individuals who command so much resource which they have unjustly earned. And they use it to get to the young people who have no access to food, to the basics of life. They use it and they corrupt them so that they can be able to achieve their own agenda. I think that for young people to take center stage in our country, it requires a total overhaul of what is in place. Because it is something way beyond the people that occupy the positions of leadership. It's something about the defective institutions which are malfunctional. It's something about the education.
I'm afraid we have very little time. We need to really, we really need to end this. So I can't let you go on. I will jump Richard and go, because you've had a little bit more time, to go to General Muntu to make a closing remark.
General Muntu, in your response, please take note of a question that was asked by Osinde on whether you back the dialogue, I think, the iPod.
Time seems to be too short, though. I didn't decide to go.
Sorry if you could indulge me for a moment. We are having this dialogue at the Golf Course Hotel. It is the Grand Citizens Debate, taking an audit of the last 100 days of the national resistance movement in Kisanja, Hakuna Mchezo. 100 days, yes. No, yes. Mao is trying to distract me. But the first 100 days of the national resistance movement, that is the last 100 days, because the government is still in power. No. So thank you very much. We have an audience that's been with us on TV. They're still continuing to watch and follow, and live streaming, but we'll be concluding this debate in the next few minutes. So, General Muntu, if you could just continue.
This time round, I opted not to go for weapons to change the regime, not so much because I've got any form of confidence. Stable, this country cannot develop on a sustained basis unless we build strong institutions, unless we put functioning systems in place.
Thank you.
The opposition and those who want to see change, we need to be careful about Parliament, the manner in which we respond. I think the campaigns that we see right now, much as there are weaknesses in Parliament, it's a red herring. When you are fighting a war, you choose what is the primary objective and what is the secondary objective. We need to be careful. I think we have to sit and see how to operate. There is a state of desperation in this country. So when we ourselves who want to cause change are thrown into disarray, that becomes a problem. So we'll have to see how to reorganize, and the focus must remain on General Museveni and the regime, General Museveni and the regime, General Museveni and the regime, until we sort out this problem.
Thank you. Bishop?
I have been very clear that we have thieves in charge of political power. They stole it. They are not the first ones to steal. They say they throw out those who stole. So let's talk about this. Elections are a process of stealing. It's evident. So President Museveni presided over a stealing machinery. So the Electoral Commission did the same. And they come to church and we bless them to steal. You know? That's a problem. You see, if you don't talk about how thieves do things, thieves corrupt systems. Corruption is the way Museveni succeeds to keep power. Period. Take away corruption from the NRM Museveni regime, the thing will collapse immediately. So, let's be able to say, you see, institutions, I hear my colleagues say they are weak. Of course they are weak. Why? Because thieves weaken institutions. Today we have a weakened private sector, not just weak. At least Ofono agrees that it is weak, but actually it has been weakened deliberately. A weakened CSO. My friends from the NGO community, you know the strategies they are having to weaken NGOs so that they can't ask questions. They weaken them. My friends in the parliament, opposition, you can keep trying. The thing is going to be weakened further. And Ofono Pondo will work very well to show you how bad you are for the country. Because it's a strategy to weaken. The judiciary has been weakened. You have Justice Kavuma, who has, how did he become the Deputy Chief Justice? The Judicial Service Commission have told us they did not recommend him. Yeah, for President Museveni, you need a Justice Kavuma for a weakened judiciary. You have people who were NRM functionaries who are now judges. Hey, excuse me. You have a sacked IGG now being promoted. So to weaken is a strategy of thieves. To corrupt is a strategy of thieves. To oppress and suppress is a strategy of dictators. These are proven processes. But here is the good news. These thieves are ours. We are not going to send them. We are going to sit with them and say, hello, you've stolen enough. We will not come to Rwachitura. We will not go anywhere. You've stolen enough. God bless you. But for now, let's organize so that the children of this country have a future. So that the women have access to health care. So that, stop talking about distributing whores in the 21st century. A serious government is talking about distributing whores? And you are talking about transforming agriculture? No, we say a day has come. Let's talk about our thieves, organize them nicely, tell them finish. And that is why I'm a firm believer in a national dialogue process.
Thank you, Bishop.
So we can deal with this.
Thank you,
the
Bishop.
future is clear. The future is not in Team Museveni, Hakuna Mchezo. No, they are jokers. Let me tell you, these people are jokers.
Thank you, Bishop.
The power of they store power from us, our job, and if we do nothing, let me tell you, they will beat us, they will do whatever they want. That's what thieves do. God bless us. Let's take this country forward.
Thank you. I was just about to call for the blessing. Now that you've given it, thank you very much.
I think we have had a great debate. I would like to thank Richard Sewakirianga and Arthur LaRocque and the team that put this together. This debate is going to continue. We are not the parliament, we are not the cabinet. what we are saying here is to recommend. But the good thing is that citizens never go away because we are the people. And the people are here to stay. Parties may come and go, governments can come and go. We have seen the back of many totalitarians, Mubarak, Gaddafi, who called himself King of Kings. So, Bishop, your words of consolation are in order. And this audience is representative of Uganda. It is indeed Uganda made simple. Now, having said that, in closing, I'd like to strongly disagree with the Honorable Richard Trodong's mischievous attempt to say we are in all this together just because we are around at the time when the crime is being committed. Don't repeat that ever again. Even in Sodom and Gomorrah, there was Lot. The fornication, the homosexuality, the big crimes were being committed, but you could not say Lot was part of it simply because he was a citizen of Sodom and Gomorrah. I think that was mischievous, and we have to push back against it. We are not part of your schemes. The other day on TV I said, first day, they deflower you, then they devour you. That's why we have to warn our MPs. You are the salt of Uganda inside that parliament. Don't let them deflower you with these privileges, with these inducements, and even coercion. I have to salute the Ophonos. Planning is good. I will always insist. And that one I take. It is a good thing. You have planned. It is like an architectural plan. How many people have architectural plans and they live in grass thatch houses? You can have an architectural plan for a mansion and you wake up every day, it is even on the wall of your grass thatch house. So, it's okay. Secondly, let us evaluate objectively the members of Team Museveni. And I think that's why Bishop emphasized it. This team cannot be the midwives of the kind of Uganda you are trying to paint. Thirdly, there's a culture that has been built over the last 30 years. To change that culture, you need to change the people who benefit from that culture, because they don't have the incentive to change it. Lastly, what are the pitfalls that the Kisanja Hakuna Mchezo faces in order that it doesn't become Kisanja bila faida, or from steady progress to steady problems? There are 4 things. 1, patronage. I don't need to elaborate. Let's deal with the patronage networks. Number 2, corruption. And I've said before, when you are sweeping stairs, start from the top. You don't sweep stairs from down. 3, nepotism. And 4, the threat of violence. General, you and I have decided at all costs, even when the youth tell me in Gulu, you know, Gulu is leading in guns per capita. We don't need to train any army there. They are trained and they have killed before. And they tell me, Mao, you are wasting our time. Go to Belarus, go to Russia, bring those rusting machine guns and we sort these guys out. And I say, no, 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 no. Because a proper general has told me. Kano Besigye has also told me. These are people who know what it is like. We in DP, we are always the conscience of the nation. When the country is losing its way, we are the conscience. The conscience speaks in a very tiny voice, but it is the conscience. It may be ignored, but you ignore it at your own peril. Eventually, you will pay a price. I end by saluting the bishop by saying the focus should really be on Museveni.
Thank you.
The man, the machine, and the mindset that I see has confused a lot of you young people.
Thank you very much.
Osinde, we believe in IPOD, and as FDC we are about to re-engage. But we have to sort out certain issues because we believe in strong institutions, we believe in systems, and therefore we are always very careful and systematic in the manner in which we make any engagements. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we come through here? Yes, Richard could make his comment, and then we...
Thank you, and it's good we have come to this.
I just need to assure Ugandans and our audience that what these gentlemen are saying is the same things I've been saying for many years. And we know. And when it comes to democratic competitions, we go with them to the poll. And the same words they use here are the same words they use during campaigns. I think it is not NRM to change, but it is you, the opposition, to change the way you think about Uganda. I need to honestly disagree with my brother Norbert Mao to say the young people of Gulu are asking him to bring guns, so that the sort of things. You know, both of us come from there. I wonder which young people you talk to quietly that I need to verify. But anyway, in conclusion, NRM is open to dialogue. This alone is a good indicator of a successful story of NRM. We are here with you, debating with you, changing ideas with you. You criticize us. We accept where we have gone wrong. We also tell you where you're wrong. Where we feel we need to change, we shall change. It has come out strongly from this audience that the issue of corruption, the issues of service delivery, the issues of poverty are things that Ugandans would like to see NRM emphasize and work on in this Kisanja Akuna Muchezo. And that is what I picked from this conversation this morning.
Thank you very much.
And I'm happy that you have invited me here to have picked this sensitive and very honest opinion from Ugandans and from the audience. We thank you so much. NRM and governance is a process, like I said. It's a going concern. It is not a one-off. Today we are better than what we were 5 years ago. Tomorrow we shall be better than what we are today. And we shall keep on like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Pass it on to Ofono Pondo. The Lord Mayor made a contribution. Yes.
He
okay.
was responding to questions.
No. No doubt we need to build a consensus, a new consensus for this country. There are voices coming out that we must have dialogue. But I'm worried, and I want to put across these views I have as I conclude. There is no political will on the side of the man called Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to dialogue. And that is the tragedy we are facing. He believes in manipulation, he believes in compromise, and Honorable Norbert Mao and my brother, I think it was a representative of UPC, Osinde, they talked about the issue of creating an Ethiopia here. And Honorable Norbert Mao sounded out a strong message to members of parliament to desist from those temptations. I would wish to sound out the same message to the leaders of political parties. IPOD was initiated for a purpose of creating a transition. I was part of the of the processes right from the time we visited Ghana, and we were supposed to create a safe exit for President Museveni. But now he has hijacked it to entrench his personal rule. And that is a danger we must resist. So what we are witnessing today, he is subduing parliament to create a monolithic system. He's trying to subdue the political parties by compacting them or their members into cabinet. You see members of UPC, members of DP, they are being given olive branches, come and join us. So now we have one monolithic system in place, and that will create an Ethiopia here. We must fight against that. And what they are warning us against, as I conclude, that this issue of politicking. In my language, we have a saying in Tianakugoba Kunswa agamba toli omulalu. In this case, President Museveni is busy politicking and is telling us not to politic. I must assure you and put you on notice. This is so-called Kisanja Akuna Muchezo. It is a time for politicking more than ever before, because we must say enough is enough to President Museveni's rule.
Thank you.
We must debate these issues. We must thrash them out. We must be proactive to deal with impunity which is entrenched within our body politic. Short of that, the posterity will judge us, and history will be there to record. To judge us as the actors today. You will tell me those who will be around in the next few decades as they are taking stock of what we did during our time. And the youth there, you must rise up to the occasion. This is our time. It's a generational challenge. You must rise up.
All right, thank
That's
you.
what they did. That's what President Museveni did in the 80s. We are not going to cause bloodshed. We are not going to pick up arms. But we must be abrasive. We must be aggressive. We must be assertive. And that's the only way we can deal with this impunity we are witnessing today. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. On to Mr. OO. A lot has been said. A walking ATM, a micromanager, a thief. You need to wrap this up.
Well, it is not long ago, the reason Lord Mayor is an independent mayor who's coming from DP is that he disagreed with Norbert Mao. I am not sure that it was Museveni who manipulated him out or manipulated Mao to kick him out. So clearly you have issues as opposition, as political parties, to sort out. When you see a general, a colonel who ran away from midst of war, when we had CON, we had the cattle rustlers, we had the ADF, I am not sure I would want to follow that general on strategy. I would not follow that general on strategy. And clearly, the last election, as you saw, their strategy, they concentrated on Museveni. As a result, they left NRM to run away with parliament, to run away with the local councils, and to run away with the presidency. I want to follow the leadership of APC. If that is the strategy you concentrate on Museveni, where is being traced? By where God is using all the Bible. Fear and so you follow theology. The many delivery vehicle for public service, public utilities, for public delivery of public goods is not Museveni. Yes, Museveni can be a moving ATM, but that is a drop in the ocean. The main delivery mechanism is the government machinery, which we should make work collectively. Mao was a chairman of Gulu. Can he tell us how many government primary schools he visited to ensure that headmasters and school and teachers are teaching the full syllabus? That all the recruitment of health workers were done in time? I am not so sure. If Gulu became #1, I hope that is why. I hope that's why when you stood for election, you did not come back with a single DP member of parliament. If that is the mark of your success.
Okay, in 10 seconds, Mr. O, because we need to move to...
Well, Chairman
So,
Mao
really,
at least.
Yes, we welcome the assessment. There is no doubt the people who have raised the concerns about weak, poor, inefficient, or even corrupt diversion of public goods haven't been so much the opposition. it has been the president of Uganda and this government. I think what we need is not to place blames. We must find collective efforts, how to reinforce, consolidate the things that we have done well, and have innovative ways to deliver Uganda to where we want to do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I doubt that Mr. Mao, who can't lead the DP, Mr. Mugisha Muntu, who can't lead the FDC, so he allows the Cannabis to come back, are the right people who have innovative ideas to take Uganda forward. Ugandans, I recommend, will remain with the NRM. Thank you very much.
I have a simple conclusive remark. One, as a country, we must debate whether we require to spend 7.5 trillion over 5 years on parliament. Because that's the cost of parliament. Over 5 years, the cost of running a 500-member chamber is 5.7 trillion. As a nation, we must face that squarely and debate it and say we either need it or not. Two, I like to disagree a little bit with the general consensus. Uganda is not moving the Ethiopian way. That is an understatement. Uganda is on a steady path to North Korea or to Cuba. And the biggest challenge we face at this critical time is how do we transit from Museveni, the individual, and the thinking. Because what is really doing and permeating all this corruption you see in institutions is an attempt to build a political monarchy. I put it square. I formed a popular resistance against life presidency when I was a young man. And I warned this country that you are going to have a life presidency. Some fellows called me a crazy young man. This time, straight I'm warning this country. You are on a steady road to a political monarchy. And mark you, Gaddafi tried it, Mobutu tried it, Ivory Coast tried it, Somalia they tried it. We know the repercussion. Instead of debating all these 100 days, the biggest challenge this country faces, I know better than most of you who now look at how decisions are made. It's very unfortunate. And the city is bad. For example, on the issue of financing of parliament, a single MP was supposed to be given 150 million. Who increased it to 200? It's President Yoweri Museveni. Who went out to the public and complained? It is President Yoweri Museveni. Whose spokesperson are condemning it? It is NRM. Let's be very careful. Let's be very careful. Let's be very careful. I have the gentleman saying that when you increase districts and counties, it is about service delivery. A county is no longer a service delivery unit at all. Its purpose is only to bring a member of parliament. And it was because they feared that if they had released the population figures before the general election, Kampala would have about 20 members of parliament and Wakiso. To circumvent that, they released the population figures very late and created counties. We now have members of parliament who are elected by 1,000 people. The MP of Usiki, including the deputy speaker of parliament, Honorable Jacob Olanya, is not elected by more than 4,000 people, but is the deputy speaker of parliament, while Honorable Lubega Segona is elected by 300,000 people. How can you have that? Let me tell you what your country is being governed. You are not putting this squarely. These they are so-called now authorities. It is about having a dry department and a wet department. You cannot have a government where I have the same qualification, work for same man hour, same days, paid from the consolidated fund, and doing almost the same job. We are all doing with the road infrastructure. You are paid 20 million, I'm paid 5. You have Kampala State Council as a case. A road mayor 11 million. Executive director, 45 million. I was shocked when I went. I was shocked when I went to Makerere University. A faculty of law dean does not have a vehicle. A whole dean of faculty of law. A whole dean of faculty of medicine. But you are creating a constituency of 3,000 and giving them a brand new vehicle. So, ladies and gentlemen, we know how money is being spent. Your president enjoys 108 billion in donation. Why aren't you raising pigs to attack that? I want to see a pig with 108 billion, which is consumed by President Museveni. You have your entire budget captured. The budget of defense and internal affairs, which is 1.6 trillion. Out of 1.6 trillion, 700 billion are in classified expenditure. Who over audits classified expenditure? This is the money. You have the Inspector General of Police. I can go through your...
Okay, Chivumbi is protected. Mr. O, you had your part.
But you also sent his submission. He also needs to...
You see, when I reach figures, they will cry. Because you even don't know who steals from you. Money actually is not being stolen by politicians. Money is being stolen in all the big deals that have gone wrong. Dura, Dam, where have been concluded in the office of the president. All of them, not any single one. And do you know who today? Yesterday we were talking about Karuma. Hello? Karuma and Isimba. Do you know who are the contractors and the commission agents of Karuma and Isimba? They are sons and either co-sons of the president. They are doing the shadow job. Today I want to question, I ask you, Honorable, I asked your Fono Pondo, what is the role of General Salim Saleh in this government? What is his role? He is here behaving like a semi-president. In constitution, you cannot have a government running that. The thing that was in the parliament, the so-called push for age limits, it was not being funded by a Fondo or my friend Todo. It was being funded by Chiriowa Chiwanuka, Karugire, there is this other Moko of his. Now, let's demand a clear statement from President Yoweri Museveni. Betty Kamya was in Kampala saying Museveni will stand in 2021. That is unconstitutional. As we speak now, he does not qualify to ever stand for any office in this presidency. Let us open this country. Inform us, will the president abide by the demands of the constitution and step aside or not?
Okay.
I thank you and God bless you.
Your time is up. I think that the debate is ending here with Arthur.
Okay,
back to the first 100 days and your report.
All right, thank you very, very much, everybody. Heated towards the end. I think the problems of Uganda, we should not in any way trivialize them or create a condition of diversion. I think that's what Ofono Pondo does a lot. Diverts everybody, and then you start running after what he's saying. I think we should avoid that temptation. So there are three concluding remarks I have. We all agree that Uganda has a problem. We all agree, whether you're in NRM, FDC, NGO Forum, ActionAid, non-aligned, we agree there is a problem. And I have to say that the solution is not very far from us. We don't need rocket scientists to come and fix Uganda's problem. We can do it. That's number one. Secondly, the only way to solve Uganda's problem is through a national conversation that does not divide people to boys, girls, women, just like Ofondo has said. All those are important in the national conversation. Then we will find a way forward. Number three, Uganda is ready for change. Even within the NRM, they acknowledge that. Even Hakuna Muche, ready for change. The turnout of parliament, many of them were booted out, different people, whether the NRM or FDC, the signal was sent that Ugandans are ready. Everybody knows and is aware about that. So we should make that change happen through a national dialogue that will deliver effective transition that we all yearn for. And finally, the most important thing we need in this country is a leadership that will inspire everybody, not divide. A leadership that will build institutions, not circumvent it. And a leader that will have Uganda transition. Because the kinds of problems we face
let me come. So you went there for what did I give you early in the morning? Did you talk in the morning? You didn't tell me about it. I want to work on something. Just